Bring our January 25th regular Board of Trustees meeting to order. If you'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator.
Here.
Trustee Jerome. Trustee Kinney.
Present.
Trustee McDonald.
Here.
Trustee Whitehouse.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Knudsen.
Here.
Mayor Hammond.
Here. Any amendments to the agenda that we need to be aware of tonight? Okay. Microphones are working good. Any conflicts of interest we need to be aware of?
No, sir.
That's good. Okay, we're going to move on to our next item. This is public comment. This is the time when individuals wishing to speak on non-agenda items come up to the podium. We'll give you 3 minutes and we'll listen to what you have to say. It doesn't matter what it is, but just as long as it's not something on an action item list tonight. So if anyone would like to come up, now's a great time.
All right, yeah. So my name is Kaylor Shosey. I'm going to be running for mayor for Wellington. I just wanted to pronounce that tonight. I have been part of the community for going on 25 years now. I bought a place downtown probably about 5 years ago. I really just want to see the city succeed. I want to see it become affordable, safe, and I want to serve the people and I want to serve them well. So that's all I have to say right now, but I just wanted to let you all know who I am, if you didn't know who I was already, and just move forward from there.
What's your first name again?
Kaylor.
Kaylor.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I couldn't, the spelling was a little tricky.
Yeah, it's a nickname.
Thanks for running.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it, okay? It's good, all right?
Thanks.
Thank you. You bet. Anyone else?
Okay, hello. So my name's Jessie Andreen. I'm from the Harvest Village neighborhood, and I come here with no expertise, but I've just realized how important it is to pay attention to our local government. And so I don't know if it's a small town thing or a political thing, but I feel like I've seen, especially on social media, which, I mean, it's a different world. It's not really the world we live in. But I've just noticed there's a trend of division in our town. And so it just feels a little bit like high school. It's a little unnecessary. But, you know, tonight, this is real life and we have to come together and find solutions. And so, you know, I hope that it's not clique against clique and aggressor versus victim. I really just, I'm tired of seeing kind of the good old boys versus everyone else, not saying that that's any of you. But, you know, I just hope that we look at each other as what we are. I mean, we're all volunteers showing up to participate in a meeting. You're all volunteers on a board. So, you know, we're all the same. We're all people that care about our town. And I just hope that we will look for solutions together and not come up with excuses. So as we enter this discussion on town spending and water, I hope that we do treat each other with respect. I wanted to acknowledge that we really have misprioritized some things in our town. And what came to my mind was Ben Franklin, when he started the first library in our country. He came together with friends and they invested their own money into the library to create it and then maintain it. And I feel like a lot of things that our town funds is not that way. You know, I think our whole country has kind of gotten off track with spending and what we feel is the government's job and what is our job. And so I just hope that we kind of keep that perspective as well, that, you know, the next time that taxpayers fund lunch for town staff or have their money given by the town to a nonprofit, I feel like there are things that like nonprofits should be raising their own funds and we could put that money towards other things. So just wanted to bring that up. I appreciate all of you and just that you value our comments. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, someone else.
Brian Mason, 7057 Sumner Street. Good evening, trustees, Mayor Hammond, and most importantly, town of Wellington residents. I'll try to keep this short as I know we've got a lot to cover tonight. My name is Brian Mason. I'm very excited that your neighbors have nominated me to run for the town as a trustee. Just wanted to tell you guys a little about myself. I moved to the town of Wellington in 2016. Been a resident of the state of Colorado since 1998. Grew up in Larimer County, attended Rocky Mountain High School and Front Range Community College in Fort Collins. In my current position, I work as an escalations engineer for a software security company. I've been very passionate about politics my entire life and continue to be well educated on current events on both the state and national level. I look forward to being more involved with local issues faced by Wellington. As a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, I understand what it is to serve our country and fight for what is right, even when those battles are hard fought and aren't glamorous. The town faces many issues which are going to require tough decisions to resolve. High water rates are at the top of the list. Town residents simply cannot afford additional rate increases to be placed upon them. Over the next 4 years, we'll also need to address growing concerns regarding road and traffic conditions, as well as public safety. I believe it's a trustee's job to find a solution between what residents want and what professionals recommend, but we need to be wary of costs and ensure that contractors are held accountable for project delays and budget overruns. I look forward to ensuring that the town of Wellington is pro-resident, pro-business, is fiscally responsible, and more importantly, remains a community that people enjoy living in and a place that we can all call home.
I gotta let him go. Sir, guys, can we just take a break? Man's giving a presentation here. Go ahead, please.
Finally, it's important that trustee be willing to listen and represent citizens. You can often find me out about town. Please feel free to approach me regarding any issue that might be on your mind. I'm always open to local discussion, and I want to be sure that your voice is represented at board meetings. Again, my name is Brian Mason, and I would like to ask for your vote as town trustee on April 5th.
Thank you, Ryan, and for your service to our nation. I look forward to seeing you out there on the trail here. Anyone else like to come up?
Hi, my name is Henry Bays. I live at a nice section in Adams Circle. I'll briefly let you see my face. Hold my breath so I don't get any COVID. It's really a shame that we've got to go through this. I just came here tonight because of my interest in the water bill that I have to pay. I used to live on a farm where I had a well. I was spoiled to death. So I just hope that the people that are making this decision for us to make a more appropriate water bill for me, myself, on a teacher's retired income, I hope that they do that. That being said, let me change subjects. I want to comment about your children. That's my particular specialty, is working with actually very troubled youth. But I've gone to a number of stores here in your community, and I have encountered some of the most polite, respectful, helpful teenagers who are still goofy as hell because they're teenagers. And they are a credit to you because it's the community that raises our children, and that's what we're all here for, to pass something on. So I wanted to second to say, well done, Wellington. I've enjoyed moving here just recently after I gave up my farm to be with the grandkids. I think you've got a great community, and I entrust the people that are going to lead us to be to have a lot of integrity, which is in short supply these days. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
All right, Cheryl Teets, 4525 Ingalls Drive. I want to just take a minute and encourage the trustees and those that are going to be making decisions for Wellington residents to truly and wholeheartedly listen to the residents that are showing up and speaking to you this evening. I've attended these meetings for a very long period of time, and I have not seen a response like this in a very long time, which means someone's doing something really great or we're doing something really wrong, and it's now starting to affect the town as a whole and not just a few people. So that's my ask this evening, is that you look at, evaluate needs over necessity and wants, and definitely consider the water rates moving forward and readdressing the 2022 budget to see what we can do about saving some of this money. At the end of the day, none of these extra benefits, these events that we plan, the outings that people do here is going to make a difference if residents don't have the money to spend going out and about at businesses. So if they're saving their dollars and saving their pennies just to afford their utility bills, we're going to see businesses sink anyways. This affects the bottom dollar. Ask a real estate agent, ask a contractor who does work here. It will eventually trickle down, and it is going to massively affect every aspect of Wellington. People aren't going to be investing in upgrades in their homes. They're going to be investing in a utility water bill. People are not going to be out eating dinner at local restaurants because they're going to be saving money for their water bill. So I think that that's a huge thing. Is I sit on a CAC board. We plan events. We cut our budget this year because we were informed that we needed to be aware of budget issues going on. Luckily, we have someone who sits on our board that has the inner workings of being a trustee and being able to inform us that the budget will be tight this year. So we tightened our pants, our belts, so to say. One also thing that you're looking at is the CAC hosts one of the biggest event, 4th of July. We host multiple events through the year. We did it on an $11,000 budget in 2021, $11,000. And that is what all of that got you. It was huge events, Easter egg hunt, town cleanup. You can do this successfully without asking for almost $100,000 to do so. Volunteers, time, you can successfully host events in this town without giving tens of thousands of dollars away to nonprofits. I think they're beneficial. I absolutely love it. I volunteer on most of the nonprofit items here in town. It's possible to do. It's possible to save dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherelle. Appreciate that very much. Anyone else? Okay. Go ahead and close the public comment at this time for non-agenda items. Move on a little bit. Thank you for all your comments, by the way. Weighs heavy on us, believe us. Okay, it really does. It's not easy. We have a presentation tonight, so we're going to do that first. It's Wellington Main Street. It's our annual report. Callie's going to speak to that for a little while.
All right. Let me share my screen, guys. All right, Callie Cooper, Executive Director of the Wellington, Colorado Main Street Program. This is a Q4 report for 2021, as well as a brief overview of our annual report.
Tonight, I have given all of the trustees a copy of our printed 2021 annual report. For those who are in attendance tonight, I do actually have additional copies with me. I want to point out just a few key aspects that are in this report. I know that you guys have already seen it prior to coming to the meeting tonight. The first one I want to point out is that we logged almost 2,000 volunteer hours this year. That is everything from events to hosting 3 different downtown cleanup days and all of our various projects, committees, and board member hours. In addition to the volunteer hours, we also leveraged $22,500 in grant funding and assistance from the Department of Local Affairs and Colorado Main Street. If you are not familiar, the Wellington Main Street program has an MOU. We have an agreement to work alongside the town of Wellington and the Department of Local Affairs to house the Main Street program in Wellington. That's a big benefit, not only to the community, but also at a state level, we are recognized on multiple levels. So what did that go to? That helped to support our grant review for the Revitalizing Main Street Opportunity 1 grant, a board retreat, and architectural assistance for the Main Street Open for Business grant for Papa's Table, which is on the historic registry. We also utilized $15,000 in mini grant dollars and $2,250 in training funds. The biggest impact, however, is that those dollar amounts on the bottom of that first page, which is we saw $848,395 spent on private and public investment in Wellington, specifically in our downtown program area. That is everything from individuals doing improvements on their homes that are within our downtown district, as well as dollars spent on Old Town Streets funds, and repair, and all of that is collected in that fund. That's also something that we track throughout the year, go through monthly assessor reports and find all that information out. And finally, we helped the town of Wellington in securing almost just under $719,000 in grant funds through the Revitalizing Main Street Opportunity 2 grant and the Main Street Open for Business grant. So those are just some key elements in that annual report. The last thing that's on there as well is that we do track all of the businesses that are in our program area, contact information, social media accounts. We also track vacancies in our downtown businesses and help to try to bridge the gap between the town of Wellington and new businesses coming in to fill those vacancies. And so we saw 7 new businesses come to downtown this year, which is super exciting. So moving on, I do want to point out some publications and awards for the Wellington Main Street program. I think we did mention this previously, but the Wellington Main Street program earned the Colorado Main Street Program of the Year Award, and I earned the Colorado Main Street Manager of the Year Award. This is voted by our peer communities across the state. There are 24 total Colorado Main Street programs, and so we were voted the top for the year.
Yes.
On our social media page and on our website, we were also featured in the fall edition of The Main Thing, which is a Colorado Main Street program publication. This showcases a video of our community, all of the things that we did as part of our Shop Small Saturday initiatives, and just a highlight on Wellington, and Lisa Christopherson from Polish Nail Salon. I would like to welcome our new board members. We have 4 new board members to the Wellington Main Street Board of Directors: Annie Lindgren, Mary Gray, Roy Cook, and Aaron Jerome. Our current projects, the Revitalizing Main Street Grant Opportunity 2, we are sort of in the middle of. That project will be completed by middle of March. We did install, thanks to our amazing public works staff and woot woot to Jim Miller, for installing the bike racks and the brand new picnic tables in Centennial Park. So you can go and see those. We did install 3 ADA accessible, wheelchair accessible picnic tables, which we did not have before. So that's really exciting. The Revitalizing Main Street Opportunity 1 grant, we do have a chance to resubmit that grant, and that will be resubmitted February 4th. As part of that opportunity, the Wellington Main Street program gets to use consultant dollars to have another secondary grant review done through the Department of Local Affairs. So that's part of what our consultant dollars pay for. Another current project is our Main Street Open for Business grant. We're starting to see a lot of these projects happen. One of the ones that was completed was the new paint, new roof, and new parking lot at the historic Wellington Hotel building. So if you've not had an opportunity to go and check that out, it looks great. And we can't wait to see further future projects. The Wellington Main Street program, in partnership with the Wellington Area Chamber of Commerce, Pizza Palace, Serve 6.8, and Integrity Insurance are currently doing a Marshall Fire Relief fundraiser. Funds will be directed towards individuals and businesses impacted by the Marshall Fire in Boulder County. Information about this fund is available on our website. So upcoming events, our Main Street Market is happening again for 2022. We have received some really great positive feedback on last year. We have made some changes this year. We will be extending the event into September. That came from some feedback from all of our local vendors and farmers that said, we need you to go into the fall. So we are kind of changing the season up a little bit, but registration for that is open. We are utilizing an online management software called Manage My Market. It's what Loveland and Fort Collins and even Cheyenne, some of those bigger markets utilize, and it allows us to access vendors that attend some of those bigger markets. So we're really excited to bring new people in, all of those local farmers and produce people and crafters, and we're just really excited about it. Finally, financials, updates to 2022. As always, our financials are always available upon request. And we do have, we did make some not last minute changes, but we did make some changes to our 2022 budget at our board meeting this last week. And so those will be available probably next week. As part of our ongoing goal towards financial sustainability, fundraising dollars from events hosted by the Main Street program will go directly towards our overhead costs for 2022. And events in which Main Street is the beneficiary will be directed towards downtown improvement projects. So that is in order for us to continue working towards that financial sustainability and hopefully be able to reduce our ask in the future. So that is all I have for you guys tonight, unless you guys have any questions.
Nice, anything you want to ask?
Well, my understanding is that with, I don't know if it's the Open for Business, that the town of Wellington got, what, 10% of the funding that was available in the entire state? I thought that was a number. So the community did really well.
Correct. So we were the 4th highest awarded community across the state. There was $6 million available in that fund, and we received $570,000 of it.
10%.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I probably sound like a broken record at this point, but I feel like the Main Street program has such amazing contributions to our community. I think a lot of these presentations focus a lot on events and programming, but I really think that the viability of a lot of the businesses to survive through COVID, or maybe even thrive through COVID, and using dollars to not just survive, but to improve their businesses for the future. I think a lot of that direction and support can be attributed to the messaging communication through the Main Street program. So I wanted to thank you for that, because that's not necessarily something that you summarize on an end of year report. or that you can provide the financials for. But these are the things that I hear. So I wanted to thank you for that. And then I don't think we have given you and the program and all your volunteers enough credit for the fact that Wellington, Colorado, of all the communities that have a Main Street program, won Colorado Main Street of the Year. I don't know if that's sunk in with everybody, but that is a huge accomplishment. And you can see the benefits, of course, across the community. So I appreciate your support, and you guys are relentless in supporting all of these businesses and even the residents within the Main Street area. So I appreciate to see what you guys do this next year, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And just as a note, actually one of our initiatives for this year is to start to track some of that information. A lot of our businesses use a point of sale system called Clover, which does track week to week sales and even the number of new customers that they see. So we actually can see a direct result of the Thursday night farmers market, events like the Cleveland Crawl like we had last Saturday. The Chamber of Commerce got 2 new members out of that event. I know Soul Squared had 96 new customers within that week. So we are able to start to track some of those new data things, and that is a big goal for us for this year.
Trustee Gator, got anything?
Oh, guys are doing a good job.
Hey, thanks for everything. This is a nonprofit that we're giving to that's working real good, isn't it?
I think so. I like I said, I hope that we can not only show it through sort of indirect support, but we can also show it through our dollars, and we can speak money too.
Else that we're going to be doing is we're going to be going for that grant that we didn't get last year, that we were that close to getting them as a really huge infrastructure grant and beautification grant for Main Street.
Yes.
I think it's somewhere in $2 million.
$2.4 million when it's done.
Work and achievements, we hope to come up with that this year, and I think it's going to pay dividends. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. We got item D, it's consent agenda, January 11th, 2022, Board of Trustees meeting. Is there any issues with this consent agenda? Oh,
I had a question.
yes.
On the roll call on the consent agenda, I'm pretty sure that Trustee Kinney and I were both here. So other than making that change,
okay.
That's it.
So I do have another change. So under the, so I think it was just an accidental copy error. So resolution 9, which was the liquor license authority, was a motion failed, but then under liquor license, or sorry, the marijuana licensing did fail, but then under liquor license authority, it also says motion failed. What they were all yays. So that just needs to be changed to motion carried for the annual renewal, because that was approved by all the trustees. That was the only thing I saw.
Great catch, both of you. Okay, if there's anything else, can we get a motion to approve the January meeting minutes for January 11th, 2022 with those corrections?
I move that we approve the consent agenda for the January 11th, 2022 Board of Trustee meeting minutes with the adjustments as shared by Trustee McDonald and myself.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
Trustee Kinney,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald,
Yes.
Trustee Whitehouse,
Abstain.
Mayor Pro Tem Knudsen,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes. Okay, we get into our action items. I'm going to start right off with the hot one. Proposed water and sewer rate adjustments. Megan Smith going to come up here and talk to us about this. I'll bring everybody.
Let me dial in real quick, share my screen. Bob, can you grab Vic as well? I'd like to have her up here. This off, remain standing. Good evening, Board of Trustees, Mayor, Town of Wellington residents. My name is Megan Smith. I'm the Deputy Director of Public Works. Is that better? Excuse me, Deputy Director of Public Works. And I am here with a great support staff to talk with you guys tonight about updates to our water and sewer rates. This is not a pleasant topic, but we are excited to kind of share what we took from you at the work session last week. It was just last week, a month. and show you what we're able to come up with this evening. So just to start with a little background, all of this is mostly the same as what we presented last week, but we did want to make sure it was in the same packet that was available to residents so they can kind of get the full background with us and get up to speed quicker. So again, we have both our water and sewer utility. This provides exactly the same as last week. I'm just going to kind of roll through this because we do have a large meat of the presentation to get to. Still just the overview. These next two slides do touch on our water treatment plant expansion project, as well as the wastewater treatment plant expansion project. Nothing has changed here either. We did update that continued value engineering number that you see kind of on the second block of that timeline to our most recent dollar figure, and that's actually still going down. We had a meeting just even yesterday where more dollars were taken off that, but as of last Friday, that was the VE number, the value engineered number. We've been getting that down to. Just to make sure this is current. And then we did add a couple of slides here just to give an overview to remind folks of where we've been in our water rate timeline. And this is our water rate adjustment timeline. This is just the last 2 years, the better part of the last 2 years of rounds that we've come to the board, open houses we've had with the public, opportunities to gain feedback, surveys that have been done. It's been a long process in this effort of pulling these dates and things together. It became very aware of the times that we've been in front of you. I do understand the, frustration is not the right word. The wish to have maybe this not be coming back so piecemeal, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. That definitely was highlighted for us as we put this effort again together. This is a sewer rate adjustment timeline, really highlighting from where we kicked off just last year. Showing down at the bottom, that last bullet there, wrapping up with where our resident rate roundtable gave their presentation and recommendation to the board and mayor, again, at that January board meeting. And then just reminding us the kind of hands tied that we have timeline to get rates adjusted for 2022 in order to meet the qualification requirements for our state revolving fund loan that we are have already applied for, submitted application for, to fund the wastewater treatment plant expansion project. So just as a reminder, a stipulation of that loan requirement is we would need to bring a rate resolution, an approved rate resolution or ordinance, I suppose, from the board as part of the application material to qualify for that loan, a rate high enough that can support the debt service that will be that we will be taking on as part of that loan. That does have to happen. We're hoping to bring that back to you at your next regular board meeting, a formal ordinance, as we get your feedback this evening. So let's start off here with the water rates. Again, bringing it back to where we have been and just getting a snapshot to ground everyone of the historic rate adjustments, both base rates and our tier rates over time. And then going back to our most recent rate adjustments that we understand, as I know you all understand how impactful it has been to our community. As you can see there in the October of 2020 and January of 2021, both of those significant rate increases for the water rates that we are all very aware of and keeping in mind as we move forward with the rate modeling. So in order to kind of see where we would be if we didn't come back to you, even with those significant rate increases that we did see, this is what things look like in sort of our do nothing situation. If we were to not raise rates this year, not raise rates next year for our water fund, we would be flipping to the negative side there in 2024 with that large negative fund balance, and we would have pretty much no way of digging ourselves out of that negative fund balance in a situation where we're not doing anything to help us out further. And when I say we doing anything, we mean the entire town. We're not just looking to put all of this burden directly on the ratepayers. We have heeded what we heard both from the resident rate roundtable, although they were, the recommendations were focused mainly on sewer. They came with some very kind of cross-cutting suggestions and ideas that can be applied to the water rates as well. And we heard from the board on this topic as well around trying to find turning over every stone and additional revenue sources or creative funding solutions. And we have taken that to heart and have considered that in these rate proposal scenarios that we're putting forward today. So we did bring back two proposed water rate scenarios. And I know the labeling seems weird, but we're trying to keep it consistent with what you saw last week. So we have scenario 2B and 2C, even though there's no scenario 1 anywhere. But these do, this does include the first round of the American Recovery Plan Act grant money that we received last year, 2021, and it was placed to the water fund. So all of these scenarios do include that money has been put in the water fund. All of these, both of these scenarios also include a compressed tier rate structure. So as you saw in that previous slide, excuse me, our tiers are pretty large, kind of 0 to 15,000, I think, for that first tier. That's a lot of consumption, and it doesn't have kind of that effect of kind of helping to target a conservation effort, which we heard both from the roundtable and from the board in the past, to kind of help create some efficiency, encourage efficiencies by that more compressed tier rate structure. So both of these scenarios do include that. And as I mentioned, when looking at not wanting to pass all of this directly to the ratepayers and doing what we can to not do that, both of these scenarios also include a one-time $653,000 transfer from the general fund into the water fund. That number is not arbitrary. It's based on projected revenues into the water fund, 10% of projected revenues into the water fund for 2022. That is a Tabor-related limitation. So that's where that $653,000 comes from. And as you can see, our goal in both of these scenarios is I'll roll through, but the goal in both of these scenarios is to kind of get to a similar financial projection, fund balance projection if possible. So then that second scenario includes that same transfer from the general fund, but it also includes, and this was the request from the board last week, what it would look like to put the second tranche of that American Recovery Plan Act dollars to the water fund as well. So we did look into that. It does result in the need to increase rates less in order to kind of get to that same fund balance projection. As a matter of fact, it's a little bit better than that even. So here is a snapshot, and it's kind of a busy table. So I'll give just a second, but this does highlight that do nothing scenario. So, which is really our existing tier structure and our existing tier rates. Of note, across these three things that you see here, these three scenarios, both current and proposed, the base rates remain the same. That we understand that as a very high base rate, it does remain the same. I do want to highlight that. You can see there the breakdown of the tiers, the proposed increase to those tiers, as on the previous slide was mentioned, that 2B scenario with just that one-time general fund transfer resulted in a 13% increase just across the tiers. So tier 1, 2, and 3 all saw a 13% increase. We do wind up with, in 2024, a fund balance, a negative fund balance, and you'll see that in the next slides. But then again, on that 2C with the ARPA funding, that American Recovery Plan Act, about $1.3 million coming in as well. And that gets posted. We would receive that probably later in the year. This assumes that it would get posted to the water fund in 2023 then. We do see the ability to reduce the rate increase. So there's a 5% rate increase then on the lowest tier, that tier 1, and a 10% rate increase on those two higher tiers, tier 2 and 3. And I did note at the bottom that this will impact commercial rates as well. We would anticipate updating that commercial tier rate to match the tier 1 rate that is adopted by the board. Okay. So here you can see this is that projected fund balance. Fund balance bar is there in blue. That gray line is our annual surplus or deficit. So how much we're eating into our fund balance or replenishing our fund balance. And then the red line is our required reserve policy, fund reserve policy of maintaining 110% of our debt service in fund reserve. So that, as you can see, even with this scenario of posting $653,000 to the water fund this year, in addition to a 13% increase, we still wind up with a slightly negative number there, our fund balance going negative in 2024. And I do want to note all of these scenarios include a subsequent 5% increase on those tier rates. So it's not a one-time and then nothing else happens subsequently. There would continue to need to be a slight increase after 2022. Okay. So that's scenario 2B. And then 2C, you can see we do wind up in a little better position. You do see that fund balance in 2023 goes up from that American Recovery Plan Act contribution in 2023. That keeps us from going negative on our fund balance in 2024. Yeah. So I am going to kind of jump right along as I'm.
Do you want to do
Yes.
that, or do you want to talk about these rates first before we go to the next?
Do we want to talk about water rates? Or do we want to wait to the end? And
Only reason why I would like to hear the sewer rates too is because one of the major factors here is whether the ARPA funds go here or there.
Alright.
So I'd like to see that. So,
Alright.
because
Okay.
fortunately we can't use them 2 times. That would be nice.
so write your questions down. All right, so moving on to the sewer rates. So as we talked about in the work session last week, as part of the sewer rate effort, we did heed advice and direction from the board and the residents that we heard after our rate increases last year, that perhaps we could do a different way of communicating what we're working on. And we really took that to heart with the outreach that we've been trying to do with our planned sewer rate expansion or sewer expansion and need for a sewer rate increase. So we've had a couple of events. We've had some direct engagement, including this resident rate roundtable that was quite a success. And then some additional communications, both with the board, social media, on the website, that sort of thing. Again, this resident rate roundtable, this is the same kind of summary slide. I wanted to make sure this kind of packet of information is following along with everything. Really heeding a lot of this recommendations and a lot of the problem solving and troubleshooting and brainstorming that went on in that effort was really valuable. So kind of the same process here, looking at where we have been with our historic sewer rates. You can see we haven't had a rate increase in our sewer rates since 2016. That's kind of a long time. We did, and I didn't highlight this, but we did increase the impact fee, sewer impact fee in 2021. We also did that for water in 2021 mid-year, pretty significant increase on both of those. And here we are going to kind of jump into our proposed sewer rate scenarios and assumptions. This is assuming, I'm not going to read through the assumptions, they're all listed there. I do want to highlight that both of these scenarios do assume a stepped increase though. So, you know, kind of a step in year one and then a large step again in year two, and then it would go on to a more fixed annual recurring percentage increase. So scenario 2, very similar to, and I'm ordering these very similarly. Scenario 2 here is that one-time $390,000 general fund transfer to the sewer fund. Again, that's based on projected 2022, 10% of the 2022 projected revenue for the sewer fund. And then scenario 4 includes that same transfer in addition to, instead of posting the ARPA funding to the water fund, we post it to the sewer fund so that we could get a comparison. And it did summarize what those stepped rate increases are there, but it's probably easier to see them in a comparison table here. So again, we have kind of this do nothing situation, which really should just say, you know, base scenario. In this case, our hands are really tied. We can't do nothing for the sewer rates. We do have to bring a rate ordinance forward for the sewer rates in order to qualify for this loan. So that has to happen next month. So that is where our current rates are and what that average sewer bill looks like. And I did place the next couple of years out there so that you can kind of see the impact of having that stepped increase. So it's not just a one-time, you know, if it's maybe only $30 next year, but it would be an additional, you know, $10 then in 2023 as well. And then it would see a more reduced kind of percentage increase beyond that. So we have both of these scenarios here. And then I also have very similar updated fund projection plots that do combine, which I do think this is a much easier way to read it, that sinking fund on top of our fund balance, as both of those funds together do count towards meeting that reserve requirement. So that's helpful. And this is for the scenario 2. We do dip below that reserve requirement for a couple of years, but we're able to come back out of it. And then scenario 3 looks like we're coming out of it more slowly because we had a smaller increase. So those percentage increases in subsequent years create smaller increases. But we do come back out of that deficit as well. We wanted to, again, bring the sample bill scenario so we can see how this impacts kind of all together. And this is kind of a snippet of, for those who receive a print bill in the mail, those who receive it digitally, it may look a little bit different than this, but this kind of a snapshot of your print bill in the mail. And we're going to kind of highlight this box here for creating some comparisons across these scenarios for to look at. So it's all kind of based on this same breakdown. So we've kind of broken it up to comparing winter versus summer, as the winter water use will really vary compared to summer, although that sewer bill would remain the same. But you can kind of see the impact there. On the far left, we have a winter water use. Am I back? Yes. Winter water use, an estimate, an average bill of 4,000 gallons. And just with our current rates, looking at about $122, $123 total bill. That's current sewer rates, current water rates. That includes your stormwater or drainage fee charges that you pay as well. As you move across, then we have that proposed rate scenario with using that tranche 2 funding in the water fund, versus beyond on the far right is using that tranche 2 of ARPA funding to the sewer fund. And the large takeaway that I take away from this is that either direction, you kind of wind up at the same place. And that's a little bit intentional, because part of the reason we're trying to create the lowest possible rate while getting to the same or similar financial projection. So we landed on the lowest rates we could while getting to some of those similar projections. And whether we put this towards the water fund or the sewer fund, we kind of end up in the same overall picture. And you see this is similar in an estimated summer bill with an average of 10,000 gallons of use. This is a bump. I don't want to by any means say that it's not a significant increase. Residents will see it. Their pocketbook will feel it. But again, they are essentially the same across both of those situations. And the one thing I would highlight is that, just to highlight it, is that if that ARPA funding, if you choose to place it in the water fund, we do have a better chance of keeping that fund in the black with the ARPA fund to the water. And there's limited change on how it would impact the bottom line as far as a resident utility bill is concerned. So our path forward, similar to what you saw before, but we are hoping to get direction from you this evening to bring a rate ordinance back to you on February 8th. We are, again, highlighting that we are preparing for a new rate study. We would engage the consultants. We'd be looking at both water and sewer usage rates and impact fees for both both residential and non-residential. So it would be a little more all-encompassing than the last rate study was. We, at this point, anticipate being able to look at those indirect costs, which that's just kind of a different term for those administrative overhead transfers that you see. So doing an indirect cost study, we hope would be part of that as well. We're still looking to scope that and determine funding. We do plan, the board has already provided funding to support the hardship utility grant in 2022, and we plan to be promoting that as much as possible, continue to engage the community, and with the resident rate roundtable is one example of many. We already have success in our water efficiency program. We had a kickoff meeting actually for our new water efficiency grant with the One Water Alliance just yesterday, I think. Today's Tuesday. And then, of course, continue to turn over every rock that we can and search for other financial solutions. So just reminding one more time, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we do have a relatively important timeline. Actually, it's a very important timeline that we do have to maintain when it comes to getting a sewer rate into an ordinance. And we are looking for the board to provide a preferred rate both for the water and sewer this evening, so we can bring it back to you in the form of an ordinance next meeting. And with that, do you have questions? And I'm happy to go back to any particular slide.
Yes, would you mind going back to the slide that shows the, yes.
So here's summer.
You read my mind, Megan.
I thought those are good comparisons.
Yeah, let's leave that one up.
Should have been able to blow that up so we could see it. We can't see it.
Okay. I don't know that I can.
It should have been, each section should have been, so you could pull it up.
Okay.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
Would you like to come up here, look at it?
No, I'm talking about for anybody. You can't see it.
You also have it on the screen there.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
But you can more than happy to come up here and sit in my seat too, if you like, and have a look at it. Absolutely.
I don't know how, oh, there we go.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. There you go. See, that could work.
I don't know if I can.
I know.
There we go. So here is winging it.
There you go. That feels better.
A little bit better.
Thank you. That really helps a lot.
Absolutely.
You bet.
I get it. I couldn't see it from out there. I got terrible vision. I know that.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, so
Did you
what are
have
you showing us?
I had a question, but I didn't want to interrupt if
No,
you had a
I'm sorry,
question.
go ahead. I didn't have a question.
Oh, okay.
I
think these are helpful.
thought it would
No, no,
be a helpful
they're very
reference. As we
helpful.
start to dive into this conversation, I think there's going to be a couple of slides that we might want to jump back to.
Absolutely. So I guess I have a couple of questions. Do we want to do more of our board discussion first, then public comment, or have public comment first and board discussion? What's your preference, Mayor? Just so I know.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'd like not to do redundant questions up on the board. So, but it'd be nice to just, you know, I know you're loaded, ready for it. I know that. And you need to be, that's
Yeah.
good. But there's other one, I want to give other people chances to weigh in.
Sure.
So in case they hit on the high, you know.
Absolutely.
don't
I'm
double up.
asking your
And
preference.
then the
I'm
public's
good either
gonna get
way.
all the time they need, because I'm in no hurry.
Okay.
So, Trustee Knudsen, you got anything you want to talk about on this, or what do you think?
No, I'm good.
You're good on with 2B or something like that, or?
You know, I'd much rather wait for
Okay.
public comment.
Huh?
I'd much rather wait until public
You better-
comment.
Okay, okay.
Because sometimes they can bring to light
All
some
right.
interesting ideas or things that maybe we
All right,
haven't
then.
thought of before.
That's fine. I get that. Okay.
But Megan, if you don't mind, will you turn it just a little bit over to the, I mean, they're all like 30 cents difference on the peak ones. Would you put it on the most expensive one? Let's just look at like the worst case scenario factor here and have that in front of us so we know.
That would be that.
Thank you so much.
I do have one thing that I want to state before we talk to
Excuse me, if you folks, no talking in the audience, please.
what I'm noticing, the major difference between the HUG program, for everybody who's listening now who's not usually tuned in. Okay, I'm gonna summarize this real first because this is important. So that is dollars set aside that will help any resident on their water bill if they have any type of hardship. $300 to help you with your water bill. Okay, this is a program that we're doing this year to help residents in need. Rates, we're discussing how they might raise, but people fall in hard times. And I want you to know that that's available. Information on it is on our website. It's accessible now. You don't have to wait for rates to increase. If you have any hardship that you're going through, please apply. And the hardships aren't like, it doesn't have to be this or this. Just tell us what you're going through. And then we'll work with you to help you with your bill. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to mention. There's more people here than normal. You may not know about it. Tell your friends, tell everybody. Anybody who's struggling, let them know, because this is something we can do to help, and we've already created this program. It's out there now. Okay. Secondly, and I just want to make a conclusion from the numbers that we're looking at regarding fund balances. What I see as a common theme between water rate and sewer rates, if the dollars for ARPA, which are rescue dollars for COVID recovery, also because I hate talking in acronyms to everybody, those are designated that we received. And we are choosing to consider those to use for water and sewer. If we were to, for the second tranche, we're receiving two sets, $1.3 million in each grouping, right? The first one we've already allocated and say we want this to go towards the water fund. The second one is the one in question, same amount, $1.3 million. We get them not at the same time. That's how it is, and that's how it's working for every community. So we could either, in these two scenarios that we're looking at, this was confusing to me. That's why I'm spending extra time on it before you guys have an opportunity to comment, because if it's questions about this, I'd love to clear it up. So if we're applying that to the water fund versus the sewer fund, we come back up into fund balance quicker on both funds. I just want to make that clear from what I'm seeing. 2025 for water and 2026 for sewer, versus if it were the other way around, rates would still holistically look similar as we're seeing on these screens, but we would be longer to reach our fund balances at the current fund balance policies that we have available. So those are the things I wanted to point out. So when considering those ARPA funds, I think that's the large summary that we're seeing now that we're seeing it in this format with those scenarios that we asked for. So thank you very much. But those are just the factual items I wanted to put in front of everybody as they're looking through this, because not everybody had the opportunity to be involved in the resident roundtable with 9 hours of like education on how these kind of things work, or 2 years, as you saw in that timeline, that we've been working through this as well. So those are some of the ones that were challenging for me to grasp, but here we are. So that's all I had to say on those, and I look forward to commenting and participating with the public comment.
Thank you, Trustee King. Trustee Whitehouse, got anything you want to at this point? Or wait.
I'll wait.
Okay. How about you?
So I do have several things I will get public input on that. There is one thing I think is really relevant that I apologize that I have not asked this question before. What is the $8 million drop in 2024? What are we spending out of our fund balance for $8 million in 24?
That is the last year of our water plant expansion. So that is looking at paying for, as we mentioned in summary in the AIS, both of these plants are being partially funded, mostly funded by an SRF loan, partially funded out of cash reserves. At this point, the planning has led us to, for the water fund, be paying for more of that out of cash reserves. And that is what that payment is making up the difference for that last year of taking the last bit of the payment out of cash reserves.
Got it. So that's the payment because the plant's coming in over budget. Beyond what, I mean, the initial one was taken in 2019 for a smaller amount. This new plant we're redesigning is more expensive than the old one, plus prices have gone up, plus COVID craziness, and that's over budget from what we started with. And so that $8 million is us basically having to make up that difference in 24.
And that is based on the 60% design cost numbers that we have to date.
Got it.
Yes. Go back. Anything else prior to?
You said several.
I do have several. The other thing that I just continued, I did want to bring up, I know we received an email earlier this afternoon from Ms. Garcia about some issues with the general fund and how the ARPA funds were posted into the revenue for the general fund, and trying to come up with those transfer monies of the 653 and then the 390,000. So those are things that I don't know if we need to look at that, because basically we've got to figure out how to make adjustments to come up with the money so we can actually highlight those transfers that are in here. Because initially where we thought apparently that money was in the general fund, there's not actually that amount there. So we need to look at where we're cutting. I do continue to have concerns. I know the board chose not to consider options with reducing the administrative transfers. That continues to be a concern for me because those are very significant. But at this point, I'll wait for the other issues I have until we have an opportunity to hear from the members of the public. The one thing I would like to request on both sides for members of the public, we are here trying to serve you. I know this is hard, and yes, you need to tell us what your concerns are. If you can be respectful, it does make it easier. But for members of the board, if we can also remember that these are our bosses here coming to talk to us, so we also need to be respectful in return. And that's all I have.
Okay.
I'm just going to sit right here with my. Screen for public comment. Can you unshare your screen? Yes.
Do you want me to reintroduce myself again?
Yes, please.
Oh, Sherelle Teets, 4525 Ingalls. So I'm gonna kind of summarize here because some of this stuff I don't understand as I didn't sit on the round table. So recapping, my understanding is if you guys did not as trustees in town step up and these else was going to do it for you and very abrupt. Is that understanding?
The state.
Got it. We had to do this and knowing that you guys either do the rate changes for us and we tier it, or the state steps in and takes it all at once. That's understood out of all of this. Yes, correct? Okay. So when I'm looking at your proposed water rate tiers and rates, I'm a little concerned that our do nothing scenario, if you look at that tier 1, that's 0 to 14,000 gallons of water for the first tier, correct? So, but when you go and look at tier 1 and 2B and 2C, you are 0 to 3,000 on the first tier of water rates. Statistically, in the previous meeting as I have attended, they said the average is anywhere 4 to 7,000 gallons for residents. Who's going to be hitting that first tier in the first place? So the cost that you're looking at, if we average 4 to 7,000 gallons of water regularly, no one's going to be hitting that first tier. So you might as well take that bottom most expensive tier level and go ahead and step it up to that level 2. And then you're looking at over $200 a month for your water bill. So I know I use at least 10,000 gallons of water a month in my home. And that's my average. So I know I'm almost at $300 for my water bill now. Concerning to me, no. Concerning to other residents, absolutely. Concerning, I haven't even seen what a business rate, a commercial rate is actually going to do to these businesses. Has anyone seen like an average of what a commercial bill is going to go to? Just like a guesstimate of what an average, are they going to be following the same tier as we are as residents? So that's kind of my main question is your tier levels seem to be off. If you're looking at it as we used to have up to 14,000 gallons of water a month. That was our old tier. So I used to fall in that base one tier. Now you've taken it to 3,000 gallons, which is pretty much watering your yard once or twice. So I'm just trying to understand what the actual average is going to be for a resident when we've sat and heard that 4 to 7,000 was an average resident's bill. I guess I'm not getting why that first tier would be on here in the first place, other than to make things look nice. And then the other question that I had is, of course, my question was going to be what John Gator had asked, was we now have another, correct me if I'm wrong, $2 million to find in the general budget to cover the 1.8 that was already allocated. So that is a cut of $2 million in the budget, the general funds budget, to my knowledge. If I'm wrong, definitely correct me. But so I'm trying to understand where we're grabbing all of these funds from. That's my adjustments and my questions for that.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Lisa Cholet, 7424 Homestretch Drive. I am a member of the Sewer Rate Roundtable. So first I'm gonna just make a comment, and I'm sure I'm not the only person in town, but as luck would have it, I have a household of 6, Sherelle, and I am in the first tier. So I appreciate that. Lucky, I don't know. But anyway, that's not what I came up here to say. I wanted to point out a couple things in the presentation and maybe get a little clarification. First, I'd like to thank everyone, particularly Rebecca and Patty, for getting me on the roundtable. I'm really passionate about this town and about the budget and being efficient and good stewards of our money. And I know that you're working hard to find all of that money for both the water and the sewer rates. So good luck. I appreciate your hard work with your staff on that. And on that note, I do have a question. I looked back at the packet from last week for our work session, along with my notes and everything from the roundtable. And when we talked about the general fund transfers, we talked about it, and my understanding was one time a year, not one time ever. So, and I know that it's a lot of money, but it's something that can be built into a budget until we don't need it anymore. This isn't a one-time fix, as we spent 9 hours or more, plus all our free time looking at it and looking at the models. This is gonna be several years of problem solving before we can be okay. Otherwise, next year, people are gonna be standing here because we're gonna be talking about another rate increase. Another clarification on things that were suggested by the roundtable about, what does it say? Plan annual updates in the future. What we said was that it needs to be reviewed for the increase each year, not a set percentage. We need to be invested and involved year after year after year so that we're doing the right thing. It's not a fix it and forget it situation. It's how we all got here. And I think everyone that was on that roundtable is committed to doing that. And I'm sure there are many other residents that now that we have it would love to become a part of it and become, you know, effective in getting what we need in this town. Let's see, I'm sorry, I was writing notes while everybody was talking. And I think that not making anything definitive like a one-time transfer or a 5% increase every year is really important, because while it's always making decisions about the greater good, ultimately, as I sat on the round table, my focus was on the impact of those residents that have lived here for a long time or who chose to retire here or who are disabled veterans, and all of these people are on fixed incomes and they don't get a 5% increase in their fixed income every year, I can promise you. So I just want to make sure that as you guys are making these decisions, that you're clear on what we recommended. And this is my interpretation. I don't speak for everyone because they're not all here. But that be committed to continuing to review this every 3 months if something comes up. If something happens, it can change the rates and we can help our residents. We need to do that. Don't have a fix it and forget it attitude. I just beg of you. And that's all I have to say.
Real quick, so you're a proponent of the general fund transfer every year.
That's misleading. I'm a proponent of not saying yes or no. I'm saying being open. So the one time makes it misleading that we're only going to do it this one time. And I'm not trying to make your life more difficult, Patty. I know that you don't believe that, but I think that maybe next year it's only half that much.
No, but I think it's important to raise that because that's all we can get is 10% out of that fund. We got more, but we can't.
So if we can budget somehow responsibly each year with the idea that we are going to transfer that, maybe we can get these rates down at some point in the future to a more competitive, livable level like other communities in this state, right? Like I think everyone recognizes that it's ridiculously high, but I don't think that anyone sits here and enjoys that. I came into that roundtable convinced that I was gonna find the solution because you're all idiots, right? Like, not really thinking that, but thinking there's a solution, right? Like,
That's why we did it.
right? Like, you're just not trying hard enough. That was really my attitude. And I mean, and walking away from it going, I can't believe that I have to recommend an increase, because I was determined that I wouldn't.
I was hoping you'd find it.
But we came up with a lot of creative solutions. And I just think that you don't just say, okay, well, this is the best we can do, and then we move on. I think it's the biggest issue this town faces, and I just think that it has to constantly be under consideration. So when I see the words like one time with an asterisk, like we recommended a one time, we didn't. We just said this needs to happen, right? This is the most we can give. And it's the biggest responsibility we have to our residents here. That's my opinion. I mean, if we can't flush our toilets, nobody really cares about anything else, right? We're all gonna be swimming in some poo. And I have 6 people in my house. That's a lot of poo. So I just, thanks again for letting me be involved in this.
Thank you for being on a round table. And
You
doing
bet.
all you can, all of you.
I appreciate it.
It's a collective effort.
It is.
Thank you.
You bet.
We'd like to hear from someone else.
I would just like to say that looking at the timelines here, we spent hundreds of hours looking at this stuff. This is what we spend our time doing, and not just sitting here. Other meetings, we go to a lot of other meetings that aren't here. So it's not, again, we're not cavalier about this. We've been scratching our heads because we don't know. So we are trying.
All right, Christine Gator, downtown neighborhood. The citizens on the round table asked the town to cut the budget, and tonight the staff is bringing requests to spend roughly 600,000. I think this is the opposite of what the round table asked. 200,000 is for the front loader, 400,000 is for Cleveland Avenue improvements, which is only the amount for the first year. The second year is 1.6 million for a total project of 2 million. Like Lisa Cholet said at the work session, there's a difference between a want and a need. Street maintenance is a need. I think improvements and remodel is a want. At the end of the packet, there's a list of grants for projects that the town wants to accomplish. The projects on that page that are on the budget are slated for 7.6 next 3 years. That's not including the new projects, not budget. 5 million for the Highway 1 improvements, 2 million for the Cleveland Avenue improvements, 500,000 for downtown improvements, and 120 for park master plan. During last week's work session, Trustee Whitehouse made a comment that staff has too many priorities. I would agree. Therefore, I would like to suggest that the board directs staff to stop all projects and focus on the water and sewer treatment plant expansions. That should be their first priority for time, and that should be the town's first priority for money. In order to reduce the residents' water bill, the town needs to cut 2.8 million from the general budget. That's 1 million for the 10% transfer and 1.8 to remove the admin transfers. There is 4.5 million worth of CIP projects in the 2022 budget, not including the Harrison Home or the water and sewer expansions. If we only cut half of those projects, you can save the citizens a lot of money. Please cut spending by cutting these projects and focusing only on the water and sewer plants. That's my ask.
Hello, Jessie Andreen from the Harvest Village neighborhood. I just wanted to kind of reiterate what everyone has said. I think, you know, it's not easy coming up with a solution, and it's not all just on you guys, it's on all of us. And I guess I just come with a couple of questions because I don't fully understand how money is allocated through different funds and things I've heard in meetings, but I still don't fully understand. So these are probably silly questions, but I just wanted to ask anyways. As far as Main Streets program goes, I was researching the Colorado Main Streets, and I don't understand why the town allocates funds for the Main Streets program, because I feel like if they're a nonprofit, they should be raising money, you know, through other ways. And I know that they had requested $82,000 toward the 2022 budget, I believe, from the town. And, you know, I know that's not enough to fix what we're facing, but if we take the 82,000 and 40,000 here and 10,000 here, like all of that adds up. And I think, you know, if we really focus and really look at these budgets every year, like they were saying, and cut costs where we can. And, you know, I love the Main Streets program. Like, I think they do amazing. And if anyone is for beautifying our town, like it's me. I want our town to be the best town in Colorado. But, you know, I think we have to create a boundary with things like that and make sure that we are seriously counting our pennies and making sure that we're putting things where they should go. So I don't know if that's possible, that 82,000 may not even be able to go towards anything. But then my other question was, why are we doing the HUG grant? I don't know if that was the same grant that we did the first time that the water rates increased, but I feel like it's just a government thing to say, hey, we'll throw money to help with this, even though the government's creating the problem. And so I just don't quite understand the logic there. You know, I know that it's helpful, that $300 is helpful, but it's probably only like a 1 or 2 month bill's worth of help. So that the HUD grant is fully federal and state fund. Find new ways to solve it, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
I'm Jim Kerwood, 7590 McClellan. Just want to make this short because to me, this water bill is like buying a steak at Costco. It's constantly going up and going up and going up. We see no way to get out of this. We look at the inflationary factor we're dealing with. You put the added water bill on us. You put the tax bills on property that comes into play here. Everything is moving in the wrong direction for the people of this country. We need to step back and grab a hold of ourselves and take a look where we're going and if we can afford it. Because in 4 or 5 months, we have a third world war going on. Our deal is going to go skyrocketing right above us, and we'll never be able to afford it. And the other thing I'm concerned about is when you look at all these rates going up and you look at the 13% raise in the equity in most of these homes in this last year, according to what I'm hearing, in 2 years from now, if you wanted to sell your home and you had to put out somebody's water bill out there, it's going to turn off more people from buying a home in this community than going back to Fort Collins where it's half the bill. There's a lot of problems we're dealing with here that has to be really brought out. You just can't hide it. We have to step back, look at this thing, weigh it out, and make sure we can handle it without having people being devastated by it. Because in my case, I live at 7590 McClellan. I probably have the biggest water bill in the town of Wellington. And I was forced into it. And this is what angers me about this whole deal, because I don't trust any of you guys anymore. Not because you're doing something bad, but from past history with Larry, when he was here. I'm going to give these people an idea of why I'm angry. When I built my home on that corner of Jefferson and McClellan, Larry came in and made me push my home back and had me come off Jefferson so that basically we clear the corner and do the home nines. It created almost 800 foot of frontage, okay? Set my fence lines halfway past my house. If you look at all the other homes on McClellan, since that period of time, everybody's got their fence at the sidewalk and it goes all the way around, and they got their pasture lands full. Last year, I spent $5,000 re-landscaping it because I lost a lot over the winter kill. My water bill is probably over $2,400, and Patty will probably verify that. It's pretty high, isn't it, Patty?
I'm gonna check into that.
That takes me out of the picture of everything. There's no tiers anymore, okay? And it's unfair because when you got that much acreage, you can't be the same thing, especially if you got horse property. I don't have horses, but if you had that, you're still dealing with city water. There has to be some kind of equality in where we live, so that if we're not, please don't misunderstand what I'm saying, but if we were in a lot of the homes like Journey Homes built, you only got postage stamp lawns, it's real simple. Even if you go up 20 bucks or 30 bucks, it's not going to kill you. But in my case, I'm going up by the hundreds. And like Terrell said, She's at $300. I'm at $500. As a retired veteran, decorated Purple Heart recipient, I can't afford that. So it could force me out of my own home. That's all I got to say. It needs to be looked at clearer.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you, sir.
We're not done with this subject. Next, please.
Wyatt Schwendeman Curtis, live in the downtown neighborhood. Just wanted to, I sit on the Citizens Commission for the sewer rates, so have been a part of this process for the last 2 months now. Just wanted to reiterate the importance of having a continuous Citizens Commission that's constantly looking at this every year and creating more, I think is important. I think we need to have more Citizens Commissions that are looking at not just the sewer rates, which we focused on, but also the water plant every year and future stuff. And then I also did want to ask the same question that Lisa had on the general fund, just because it was confusing about the 10%, if it's just a one-time thing or if it's going to be an annual 10% thing. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. And Wyatt, thank you for putting your name in the hat running for mayor.
Thank you. I'll talk about it more next time.
I know you will. You're going to get your chance.
Kaylor Shosey, 8113 2nd Street. I think it's important that we use this gentleman's speech as an example. Obviously, he's upset. We have a lot of people in this community that are on fixed income, that serve for the nation, that worked hard their entire lives, retired here. I know that it can't be fixed overnight. I know that the rates are gonna have to go up. But I think if we, as a community, think about it, and you guys as the board think about these items that they're presenting to you tonight, about pulling from the general fund or cutting where there are wants versus needs, it'd be really important to look at that and how we could go about it. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind when you guys are discussing this before you get back for the next time when we have to go over the water issue. So just keep that in mind. Thanks.
Anyone else like to come up? Okay. Quick meeting, bring it back to the board. Just beat it up a little bit, okay? So let's go ahead and start on this end again. For Tim Knudsen, you got your any kind of enlightenment?
I'm just going through comparing rates, from existing to what they are now and trying to figure out what the best approach is. Understanding that we've got a obligation to meet with our funding, but also in consideration of the citizens and their concerns. So just trying to figure out the best method to try to do that. None of them are easy.
No. Trusting Powell, anything?
It's a lot to take in. I mean, these are all concerns that we've talked about during our various meetings. We've talked about the impacts that the decisions that we have to make will impact the people that we have that are on a restricted or fixed income. That is absolutely one of our top concerns. Keeping the community affordable and a place where families can afford to live. That's one of the biggest draws that brought many of us here, is that it has that small town community feel, and it was affordable. So it's quite the pickle that we're in, that we have to make a decision about wants and needs and look at programs and all of the other facets, because if our only responsibility was to provide water, we would be a water district. But unfortunately, we have other obligations that we have to try and balance the wants and needs of the community, and having more citizen input. One of my biggest takeaways that I got personally from the Citizen Roundtable was initially, my approach was the increase the rates to just do it one time, rip the Band-Aid and be done. But after hearing their input and their comments and their feedback and their perspective, it was actually the opposite, that a graduated approach to addressing this would be much more favorable to the citizens. And those are things that it's difficult to balance your personal thoughts and beliefs against what is important to the community. So I wholeheartedly believe that more citizen roundtables are going to be essential to helping solve these problems in the future. One of the programs that we talked about, in addition to the HUG grant, is budget billing. I think there's additional opportunities. We can look at additional programming and funding options to provide assistance for our seniors. Because really we have very little amenities here and resources available for them. And this is a huge concern for me, especially the ones that are responsible for watering a yard when they moved into a community that was supposed to be affordable, that doesn't have a non-potable system for their outside irrigation. And that's super difficult because then they live in an HOA that requires them to have certain beautification requirements. So addressing this from a lot of different facets and a lot of different angles is really important. Working with our planning and zoning people, working with the planning commission, working with our homeowners associations, having these citizens roundtables are super important to getting the feedback that we need to make the decisions that we have to, like we are in the next 2 meetings. And it's really unfortunate that this burden is before us like it is today, but it's unfortunately just something that we have to deal with. So having the courage to stand up here as the town and the community has grown and evolved. 5-6 years ago, we weren't live on Facebook. I mean, bless COVID and all its, things that it wasn't positive for, but it did bring out the opportunity for us to be more transparent to our citizens because it forced us to have a more social online presence. And I think that has what has generated so many of you to be in the room here today, is because if we didn't have those outreach opportunities, then you wouldn't have even known to have shown up tonight, or you wouldn't have gotten the information from your neighbors to show up tonight, or from other citizen groups that are engaged and involved. So using each other as a mouthpiece to share the information, like the Citizens Roundtable, like like Lisa was saying, when she first started and she approached us, she was like, the board up there, they're a bunch of idiots. They have no idea what they're doing. There has to be other solutions. And sometimes you just beat this thing to death, and here we are. And these are the best solutions that we have today. But there are opportunities to continue to beat this in the future. Trying to obligate the board to future debts through saying we're going to do this general transfer every year is not fair for this board to say. That's a financial decision that the board needs to make from year to year based on the budget that they have in front of them. Your situation can change, and dedicating that kind of money long-term is unwise. And lastly, I want to address the administrative piece that we had talked about in there, because I think that from what I understand, part of that is with our water fund, we try and keep all of our expenses and revenues in that same fund so that we can measure truly what it takes to provide that utility. So I believe that part of that administrative fee is the staff's wages that are associated with running that enterprise fund or that utility fund or that utility. So if we talk about cutting that or getting rid of that, then the talented minds like Megan and Bob Gowing that are out here, that we have worked really hard to recruit and retain the top talent to help address these problems, we're really going to be shooting ourselves in the foot. So I appreciate asking the questions so that we can understand it better ourselves. It's a very complicated issue. And I really appreciate everybody who took the time to come and speak or participate in a round table or grab me on the street or in the grocery store and ask questions. Because if you don't ask questions, then the answer is always no. So thank you so much for your time. That's it, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Whitehouse.
Yeah, well, I can tell you this is not easy. As I said, we've been looking at this for 2 years, and I don't think anyone up here has said, oh, we got the magic bullet, we're just going to fix it by doing that. The can was kicked down the road for about 10 years, and long before we got here. So which doesn't make it any better, doesn't make it any more palatable, because it's not. I mean, this is, it's like this is horror story, like, which is tired of having to make the least worst decision up here. It gets really tiring. And there are not a lot of great options. So I do appreciate what everyone's saying. And I think we are turning over every stone. I mean, we just got a grant for $25,000, which you might go, what's that going to do? Well, we're doing everything we can, and everybody is looking, and we're trying to, heck, you know, a bunch of us met with Representative Nagoose and staff from, who was the other senator we met with? We're basically like this for the town, to the feds. We need some money. Can you help us? I mean, we're doing it. I mean, although Wellington's like, and then got the feds, it's a totally different game. So, but I do appreciate everything, what people have to say, and we're going to wade through this. And I'm not sure at this point if I've got a clear sense of where we're going right now, but the sad state of affairs is the SRF loan, which is state revolving fund loan, deadline closes in the beginning of March. We have to prove to the state to get this loan that we can pay our debt service. Otherwise, we were not going to get that loan. And then that loan opportunity, that application window is pushed back 6 months. In 6 months, we are going to be so far behind our construction, and we will be in violation of state health codes, and they will come in and they will levy significant daily fines, tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, it's serious. So again, we're trying to balance all this stuff, and don't think we're not thinking about it. This is what people have been thinking about for the last 2 years. This is not some sort of random thing. And so I take it very seriously, and we are trying to find solutions, and currently they just don't look very good, but we are looking, and your input's important. You know, there's a big pool of candidates who are going to be running for office. It's come April, and you know, good luck to you all, and thank you. This is not going away in April. It's not going away in the next 2 years. So it's here. We just have to deal with it. I'm sorry to say.
I'm still thinking through a couple things. Can I go last, please?
Yeah. Trustee Peter, let's go down yours.
Okay. So first, do want to thank all the men and women who've submitted comments, whether being here tonight. We had a stack of emails that we were handed this morning from those who emailed your comments in. And I appreciate you taking the time to do that, because it's very important that that's part of the process. When I said earlier, you're our boss. We work for you. If you look at the org chart, we're at the top of the town staff. We work for you. We answer to you. So I thank you for taking time to share with us. So I do appreciate the comments by staff and my other board members about us really working to turn rocks over. And I do not want to take away from the fact that we've all worked, we've spent between all of us probably thousands of hours working through this. So we are working at that. The concern that I have, and I'll take responsibility from my end of this as well, is that when we've been looking at turning stones over from a board standpoint, yes, we've been going to everybody about funding. We've been going to everyone about where can we find additional things of money? How can we spread things out? The one thing that we haven't been doing is saying, what can we cut out of the budget? I understand staff has worked hard on that and they brought a much cleaner budget this year than last year, but that's not a conversation we as a board have had. What can we cut out? What can we as a board do without? And until the citizen roundtable, I didn't either. I wasn't up there asking the questions until our citizen roundtable came back to us and said, what if you were to not take these indirect costs out? And to address a little bit of that, the answer was not don't pay those costs, as Trustee McDonald said, so we lose the staff, is it's to pay those costs from the general fund rather than the sewer and water fund, and saying, what can we cut in those other funds? And so that's the concern that I have, is every time I hear about rocks we're turning over, it's always about, well, what can we get the government, other governments to give us more money, or how can we spread things out longer? It's not, what can we do without? And what I hear is, well, we don't have time, it's going to take too long. The answer is we can do what we want. If staff has too many other priorities, the way it works is we say, this is what has to happen, and we find a way to get it done. We don't say, well, we just can't do it. We are starting from a place of saying it just can't happen. And especially understand with the way things got linked, we still have even more to come up with now with the ARPA funds and things not being how we thought they were. But I mean, looking at the budget, there are so many different areas of things that we can bring out. just in what I was going through today, not even talking about CIP projects, which is one where we can easily look is, okay, does this project have to happen? Are people going to be losing homes or things like that if we don't do these projects? That's one area. Travel and training is another thing. Yes, it's great to send people to conferences. We've got a lot of good information at conferences, but that's $100,000 across our different funds that's spent on travel and training. Is that something that has to be done, or people won't be able to do their jobs? Are we going to get fined if we don't go to conferences? Are we going to get fined if we don't stay in hotels? Looking at our board discretionary fund, there's a lot of programs we're funding. And again, we've heard a lot about the Main Streets. They've a lot of good work that they've done. Boys and Girls Club has come to us and asked for money. We fund fireworks. There's a lot of things that we fund out of that, but that's over $150,000 between that fund of the board discretionary fund and the board outreach fund. Okay, that's a question mark. Are those things that we have to have? Is the problem that I have is that we are going to the citizens and saying, you don't have a choice, right? I as a citizen don't have a choice to not, well, I do have a choice. I cannot pay my water bill and my children will have no water to drink. So I really don't have a choice to not pay the bill. And the concern that I have is in all the conversations we've had in all the thousands of hours that this board has not sat down and said, what can we cut out of the budget? We've not looked at saying, what can we do without? It keeps saying, how can we get more from other people rather than saying, what can we do without? So that's a big concern that I have with that. Again, with the administrative fees, I understand that can't be something that can be done every year, but it does give us an opportunity to help to bring some of that off of the residents. And we as town staff, we can do with less, we can do a little bit, things won't be as nice as they have been, or we won't be able to do all the projects that we wanted to do. The other thing I wanted to bring up is that the reason that the sewer roundtable suggested that stepped increase was one of the things that we've constantly said is we need more time. We need more time to do a study. We need more time for this. The reason for that stepped increase was don't do a huge increase up front, not so that there will be a bigger increase in a year, but was so that over that next year, you figure out what are the grants you can find, you cut your budget, you find ways to spend less so that instead of another $10 or $15 increase, maybe it's like a $3 increase because we figured out how to become more efficient. That's the big things. The other thing I know that was brought up by the board is that, well, it's going to take us time to look at what are the changes that we need to make on the budget. And my recommendation that if the board feels that you don't feel that we can address the cuts needed in the budget prior to us making a decision on these rates because we don't have enough time, then we as a board should not be authorizing any funds that are non-critical to any program until we've readdressed the budget. We got new information after the budget was adopted. We learned we could actually put money into we could actually do transfers. We can't do it all the time and there's limits to what we can, but we had been told for a year and a half, you can't do it. Then we all of a sudden found out after our budget, well, you can do it. So I think if I agree, we need to readdress the budget, but if we are going to say, hey, we can't readdress the budget in time to cut money out to save residents money, then we should be halting things that we're authorizing spending on until we've readdressed that budget. Because we might need to look at things and say, hey, we actually can't fund these things that we thought we could do before. So those are my comments.
All right, I wanted to address some of the questions that were asked that I do know answers to. The first one being the HUG program, which I said I hate this, but it is an acronym and I continue to refer to it as an acronym, but it is a hardship utility grant and it is funded by our town. It's funds from the town of Wellington. Those are not funds coming from elsewhere. That was a decision internally within the town of Wellington and this board that we put those funds aside to help folks who are struggling. So there was a question as to where that money is coming from. Regarding, I was trying to summarize everything that I was doing so I didn't talk in circles. Probably going to still do that. Okay, so a few things that I'm hearing and kind of some of the summary of the things I want to comment on. The advice and direction given by the resident roundtable was extremely valuable. So valuable that I absolutely agree that that model should be used for other major topics within the town. One of those being a finance-like accountability group that we talked about previously in other meetings, and potentially that finance accountability group would be tasked with looking for opportunities within the budget. Because I'm not going to go and say, I choose to take away 4th of July. I'm not going to do that to anybody. If ever the question is posed, what does Wellington mean to you? What's your favorite part of Wellington? 9 out of 10 times, if you see the Wellington sign with the images that are in there, that was from a community survey as to what represents our town. And you will see lots of fireworks, car shows, everything within that image, because that was the citizens of the town saying what's important to them here. So that's a visual representation of what people love about Wellington. And it is, I cannot just even as a voter representative say, I'm taking this away from you. So, but what would be really wonderful is a citizen-led initiative where they were looking for opportunities within our budget, and then we got them to weigh in on their priorities. I think that's the way to address that. And I look forward to finding opportunities within the budget, and wherever possible, I think that would be great. Regarding the administrative fees for things associated with water and sewer, that's what those are, administrative fees for those things associated with water and sewer. So I want to be careful that we're not doing some finance tricks to make it look different. I want to make sure that we're valuing the input from our community and providing the services and amenities, and most important, the safety and utilities that we're supposed to do. So that's my comment on that. And I think we have a wonderful plan moving forward that we've all discussed at this point. We initiated this resident roundtable very quickly, and I haven't heard I haven't heard anything negative about that process. So I'm ready to go full speed ahead on more opportunities for residents to chime in and get all the education regarding the budget that took, 9 hours for sewer. And that was, I'm surely that was very condensed. So there's so much opportunity here and input to receive. And I am so eagerly awaiting that feedback. So I can't wait to get started. So you have our guarantee. Well, you have my guarantee that we're going to follow up on that. That's not a question here. Getting really valuable participation that enables engagement, I think is the best form of the resident feedback that we've received thus far, and the most practical and with items that we can actually implement. So I see no bad side to this. So things water related, whether they're water or sewer, things finance related, bring on that participation. I'm so excited about that. So, all right, that was my topics on that. The condensed tiers have not gotten, I hear a lot of concern here. I want to get a quick recap of exactly how your bill works. I think there is a misunderstanding of the tier charging, more so that your first 3,000 are billed at a certain rate, the next are billed at that rate, and then beyond that are billed at the higher rate. Not that all your usage based on your water consumption total is billed at the higher rate. So that was a concern I heard, and that is not how it works with the, so for example, if we looked at the bill example that we had, you'll note the actual calculations based on the tiers usage, and that was based on the 10,000 usage. So not all of that was billed at the higher rate. The usage within the smaller ones are billed at the lower rates. So I think that's a math that we could go through and understand that a little bit better. But in the packet with the examples, it'll show you how that's calculated with those specific examples with the specific usage. Another thing we didn't talk about earlier, and again, I'm reviewing things because I feel like there's a lot more audience today than other times, is the reason why we showed a summer versus winter rate is a lot of people in our community will use their treated water for irrigation. And that's relating to the water rates. And that's what makes it such a big difference between summer and winter. You'll hear all these things that I asked questions about that I'm clarifying for you guys, because again, these are things that I needed extra help with. So I'm gonna reiterate some of those for you in case you had similar concerns. So that's why that is the case. If you have a neighborhood that has a non-pot system, for example, the Knowles, Harvest Village, Those are the only two I'm going to know. I'm going to say because that's the only two I know for sure. But they have like a community irrigation system that uses well water to water. So they won't see those high swings associated with irrigation seasonally, because ideally all the water, extra water for irrigation would come from a well system, not from their treated water from their homes. Okay. Next item. This is why it took me a while to get ready for this. Sorry, guys. The condensed, back to the condensed tiers. There's a lot of goals within the community, and these are long-term, like Colorado, where do we live? Let's keep in mind that for the condensed tiers. What that does do is promote water conservation, which is another goal and initiative within the town. And that also includes changing landscape requirements for less turf requirements, because a sprawling green lawn is not, doesn't work in Colorado anymore, and it won't continue to work, and is not feasible for people to pay for. Increasing water rates, unfortunately, I don't know about nationwide, but across Colorado is a plague on communities. It was a high concern for so many communities when we got together at the Colorado Municipal League and talked to communities across the state. So this is not an issue that we will resolve or only associated with our new treatment facilities. This is a problem with access to water as well. So I want everybody to keep that in mind as well. The things that I'm hearing as a summary from what I heard from resident roundtable and from people here tonight is that the yearly reviews are so important. I think I will make an assumption, and based on previous conversations, I would say this to be true. When we show year increases beyond next year, it's mostly for the assumptions that an increase would be needed. So it allows us to do long range forecasting for those general funds, or sorry, for those fund balances. Not necessarily that we're dialing in and agreeing to multiple year increases now. So with that said, though, I think it would be important to mention that if when we do adopt water rates, that we are only adopting the rates as of now. We're not adopting rates as of 2023, 2024, and so on. I think the modeling that we did to show the additional increases in subsequent years was more for us to be able to show how we will pair debt with some very large assumptions, but those assumptions are then based on how much water we use, and we don't know that right now. So we don't know our revenue completely, but I think that just shows it for modeling so that we have that idea. But I agree, yearly reviews are crucial. That has to happen, and those rates should be determined based on that yearly review for subsequent years. But just so you understand, for modeling purposes, we have to show what potentially could happen for water rates and sewer rates. Reading over my notes, I think a really important thing to know too is that we're unfortunately responsible for an entire town, not just for the water and sewer. I don't know how many times I've heard this question, and for planning and for land use, and for, I hear all the time is, why didn't the town think of that? I hear that all the time. The road is broken. Why didn't the town think of that? We need a new water plant. Why didn't the town think of that? This is something I hear all the time. And the truth is, we can't be hyper-focused on one thing and ignore everything else and expect to not be in another emergency situation next year. We can't ignore roads or other infrastructure and only do water and sewer. We have an entire community to support that's very complex in so many different systems. You can't ignore one and go all in on the other. As much as ideally in your head, maybe it's the most important. So that's the only thing we should think about. That's not how it works. Because in that situation, we might get there, and then when our kids are going to high school and we have the most dangerous intersection in the town of Wellington involved with Larimer County and CDOT, all of us together in one thing, and a child dies going to high school on Friday night lights, Why didn't the town think of it? Why didn't the town push to improve that intersection? Well, we are, and we can't lose steam on that. That is also important. So we have to foresee these situations, as horrible as they might be, and we can't not focus on everything. One of those projects came up tonight, but that's going to be our teen drivers driving on the most dangerous intersection in Wellington. So I'm not going to stop considering that. So I do appreciate all the input. I hope we answered some of the questions. We have a lot to think about, and a summary for the actual rates in front of us. My preferred scenario is water 2C, including the ARPA funds and general transfer, and sewer 4, including the general transfer, of course, not including the ARPA funds because they would be applied to the water. And the reason why, in summary, is that it will bring us back up to fund balance in the soonest amount of time, but with the similar effect on rates, there's not a significant difference between those alternating scenarios, other than that we will be in a better financial situation sooner based on the allocation of the rescue dollars to the water rather than to the sewer, based on the modeling that I see in front of me. And regarding action items, that was my summary.
Okay, I think we've heard from everyone. Okay, a couple final comments. Thanks for everyone taking the time putting in. We've worked on, like everyone said, we've been working on this for not just 2 years. When I first got here, the first thing I was working on was a $16 million water treatment plant, okay? Today it's 31. When I started the wastewater treatment plant a year and a half ago, we got to 60%. It's 31, today is 47, okay? So the longer you sit, and it's a terrible time to do this, construction, everything, supply chain, all the construction, all the materials, it's just exponentially increasing, along with inflation. It was brought up. We're not getting away from that. The longer we delay, another 6 months, another 10 million. So we've got to get in position to get started. That's all. Just get started so we can secure the funding. And then we can go back to the table, hammer that budget out. I mean, quickly, as soon as possible. Doesn't matter. Get a finance committee to do it. Doesn't have to be this board. Like we just said, another round table. Go back through it. I've not married anything in that budget, but we sat at a round table for 2 days and we had a collective discussion and we developed the budget, and we do it every year. And we had citizens there too to look at some of the things, and we did talk about a few things. And then we go on staff recommendations. I don't know exactly what they need more than they know what they need. I'm not a professional operator out there in the water treatment plant. I don't know what he needs. I don't know what kind of training he needs. It would be arrogant for me to say that you don't need that. Okay. However, sometimes you got to go back and look at it when we don't have the money. But today we've got to get started so that we can go back and fix all that. And that's our problem. I'm in favor of 2C just to get to the quickest way to do something there. But the other thing I wanted to talk about, when you get these both these projects under funding, they're going to be considered what you would call shovel-ready projects. Okay, you've heard all this magnificent talk about your federal infrastructure dollars coming down the pike. Okay, from the Biden bucks bill, and it's coming, but it hasn't been allocated yet to our state. But when you got shovel-ready projects in place already, that puts you in a pretty good position to get some money. And we need that. We don't need 1 million. We need 10 million. And that's the kind of hits we need to make things happen. And this is going to be, I think you ought to be looking at the water rates biannually myself. I don't care if it's quarterly. I look at them all the time because it is a commodity. Costs go up and down. Usage goes up and down. You find monies here and there, and you do whatever you can. It's one of our most complicated funds to manage, given the way we buy our water too, which is quite cumbersome and convoluted, other than other towns like Fort Collins, who have a robust water portfolio and a big well to draw from. Okay, we are quite unique, and that's what the water rate people told us. And the first thing we need to do is, after we get this done, is get the water rate study kicked off, so we can go back through that mess and find out if there are other ways to be equitable to other people that are fixed, if there are other ways to handle potable versus non-potable. So there's things that need to be gone back through there. And the reason why it hasn't been done in the beginning is because I don't think anybody truly understood exactly what we had here until we spent 2 years working on it, like we have. Okay. In those first years, people didn't understand. That's why your water rates are at $18 for the last 15 years. You're kidding me. The cost of water itself went up 700% in 10 years, right? I mean, if I remember right. So, and we never made any adjustments for that, not this board, but the government, you know? Anyway, so we're at the part now, as it's been told, that we have no choice, that other agencies will come in and manage this for us, and they won't be as hardworking as we're trying to be, you know, to make it palatable. The other thing I wanted to ask, and I don't want to go into this too much, Megan, real quick, because I know you can't do that, but we elected not to do an average around the year. Just you know, right? We did elect on the cost of the water. We got a winter rate and summer rate. We elected not to do an average.
Well, the reason we highlighted it instead of historically, I think you'd seen a lot of 7,000 gallons as an average bill, but that's averaging across the whole year. That's which doesn't give a very good perspective of what a true like summer average would be. Right. So people can really understand that it is more, and with a compressed tier structure, it would be more.
Cost per gallon isn't more, is it?
But the rates would be identical. Okay. There's no different rate between summer or winter.
All right, now that $8 million dip that you're trying to pay back in another year, that's you don't want to spread that over 2 or 3 years? Would that do anything to you know, ease the pain on paying back? You got to do that quickly.
So that would be paying construction costs. That's why you're in construction.
No, but I'm not 8 million in the hole. I'd probably be out of business.
I'm not sure if we can do layaway with them.
Well, I thought
I'm sorry, I shouldn't joke.
It's the shortfall.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. And that's because of the increase in the cost of that construction plant in 7 months of sitting here studying it. Okay? So we got to get moving. I'm for looking at the general fund balance. I'm for looking at the administrative fees, all that stuff. Just keep looking, keep drinking. You got to keep working at it. And the next, this will be like Trustee Whitehouse said, I've met with a lot of top state officials and that sort of thing. And we're bleeding, you know, our prayers to them like anyone else is. And we're just one of every town, but like having shovel-ready projects speaks a lot more than just you're begging, okay? And that's where we're at. And we've got them. Even that intersection out there is a shovel-ready project for the school. It's got to happen, okay? But that doesn't mean there's not other things to look at. And I think having a citizens committee, the roundtable, the finance committee doing their annual budget, that's a great idea. Why not? You know, we're not experts at everything here. So, but we got to get moving and we got to get on it quickly. And it's going to be, you got a new board coming up. You got a new mayor coming up. They're going to have a lot to do, and it's going to, and they got a lot of energy they're bringing a lot of energy, and you know what they're going to know, they're going to have, unlike what we didn't have, was a good understanding of the problem and the numbers. Okay, we do, just need to find out how to pay for them, but we do, and I think there's creative ways to do it. Okay, so I know, and I sympathize with you, sir. I live on McClellan. I understand what you got over there. Okay. Well, it's a nice big road and they drive fast, but you know, I understand he's on a corner a lot. I get that, you know, I understand that, that there's a water, you know, water's tricky. And we just gotta, the best thing to do is get to the starting point.
Troy, the hard part was being held hostage.
Yeah.
To do that. Yeah. He refused, he took $5,000 and put it in escrow so we could get our seal to move into the house.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we had to do all this stuff extra. And it hurts because we put all that landscaping in and then Journey Home comes in and ruins the lawn twice. They had to go in there and replace that lawn and the sprinkler systems. So I've got 3 sprinkler systems in that front yard, 3 lawns in that front yard. And a lot of it's money that we had to put out continuously with money to keep it watered and ready to go. That's what angers me, okay? Because all I heard was promises, and I'm worried about this board, this water deal, because, you know, you talk about 24, but what I see here is that the monies are going to be up there, this number is going to be up there, and then if you do get this thing going, you're going to say, well, the water could come down, but you know what? You already got your pockets being filled with extra money. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right, and that's our, and I've got, we're back at the board, but I appreciate the input, okay, I really do, and I'm your neighbor, okay, I got it. But we're working on it, it's not, it's really terrible. But that's what, I'm sorry we're at that point where we got to pull the trigger and then we can go to work on our problem. You know, so, and I'm not afraid of that. And we have to do this. If we don't, I'm more afraid of that. So we've been here a long time now. You know, my whole 4-year deal has been on this thing, you know, I mean, you know, into a pandemic, you know, so anyway, that's where we're at, where I'm at here. So I'm prepared to go with 2C with the understanding that we've got a lot of work to do and getting ready for the next board so they can carry the torch. You know, that's the best I can do at this time. Other than if you keep going back, and then you're going to run out of time, and then we're going to really miss a serious window. And oh man, you might as well throw your hands up. And I know we're at that point now, but that's kind of where I'm at. That's kind of where I'm at today, because I am a little bit more optimistic about the future because it just hasn't been kicked off yet. And I think that we're going to be in position to really take advantage of some of that, but we got to get going. You know, that's where I'm at. So I know you're looking for a recommendation. I know we're not here for a vote tonight, or are we? No, we're not. Okay.
No action item.
No action item. So I think I've heard enough. Have you heard enough? Do you have anything else more to say?
No, I'm comfortable with 2C as well.
Okay, Tuesday coming back with the best guess.
2C. I said
2C
my
and
preference
4?
is 2C.
And 4 for sewer?
You say
Yes.
Tuesday or 2C?
2C.
2C.
Sorry.
They both work, I think. Okay.
Yeah, to go together. If you do 2C, you have to do 4. So I like what you're saying about getting the roundtables together and working at the budget. Basically, my stance on this is that we need to get this over. My concern is, again, about promises made but not delivered. So if we are willing to stop funding things that are not vital to operation, so basically put all other things on our budget on hold until we have that review, whether it's a month, 2 months, then I would be willing to consider one of these. But unless we're willing to put a hard date that we are going to stop spending on everything non-essential until we review the budget so we can decide whether it's going to keep or not, I'm not willing to just pass this on, because then it becomes something that's already, well, we already took care of it and it goes by the wayside. So that's kind of where I'm at on this, because I want to see an option where we cut our town budget to help bring some of this cost down off the residents. So that's where I'm at.
So quick question. I mean, so if we cut, let's say $3 million out of the budget, right? That can't be because of the way the enterprise funds are set up. And this is both constitutionally and by Tabor, you can only transfer a certain amount of money into those funds. So if we're cutting all this stuff, I know you did a back of a napkin calculation about how you divided up this certain sum of money and then it gets refunded back and saves everybody $35, which I have to suggest to you is a really dangerous way to make policy, in my opinion, because it's not thought out and the implications aren't. So I think we need to think of what the implications are, and I'm willing to look at all this stuff, but I don't think, I think we still have to move forward with some things, and I don't think this one's going to get, you know, pushed off to the side and not come back. I think it's pretty clear that's not going to happen.
Is it clear for the recommendation for everybody else on the board to proceed with 2C and 4 regarding the water and sewer rates? I know that we're branching into a lot of other topics that are unfortunately beyond this conversation that we don't have enough information to comment on. Could we provide that instructions to the staff so we can move along? I'm sorry, we're going to be here very late tonight.
Yes, we are.
Let's, yeah. Are we ready to make a recommendation?
Can I ask a clarification?
You do 2C and 4.
Huh?
They're both using the
Did I say it wrong? Did I say 2C and 3?
2C and 2.
Let me make sure.
Can I
Yes, you may.
reference? So, you know, when we found out today about the ARPA funds being plugged into the general fund and knowing we were going to need to move that, staff got together fairly quickly to see what options we could come up with, just looking at our budgets and what could be deferred and, you know, what can we change, what staffing levels. There's some staff that we're not going to hire till mid-year, so we have salary savings in that. And overall, so we needed to come up with $2,343,000. We have just this afternoon come up with $1,454 in budget reductions that we can do. And whether that is, like I said, deferring a project or maybe not doing a project, hearing from you all, knowing that we needed to make some cuts. And obviously we've all been thinking about it over the last several weeks. So when the time came and I came to staff and I said, we are in trouble. We need to come up with some ideas. We were ready to bring those up. So I can tell you, so now we're looking for another $889,000, which we will start doing. I do have on the February 15th work session to bring back essentially the idea of how we were going to fund the enterprise funds, what that transfer looked like. So this can be just a broader discussion of how we meet the rest of that $889,000. I think that would hopefully help the trustees feel comfortable with moving forward with the water rates. And that way it gets before you. It's after the adoption, but I can commit to you that we will come up with the other $889,000.
You're off to a great start.
Thank you.
You're off to a great start.
But correction, yeah, it was 2C and 2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was unclear that there was a discussion of where to put that additional 1.3 million, that whether it was going into the sewer fund or the water fund. And I believe you clarified that you felt, or based on it, seemed better to be placed in the water fund. Yeah, okay. So I concur.
Okay, I think we're good. They can move forward. Thank you.
Okay, so staff will come back on February 8th
Yeah.
with an ordinance that reflects
And we'll come back with
those
whatever else we
choices.
got, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Very
much.
nice presentation.
Thank you, everybody, for sticking this one out. It's not over. I wish it were. It's not.
Good job. Good
Thank
job.
you. Thank you, sir. We'll see you on the road walking. Okay. Just flag me down if you see me. Okay. Flag me down.
Sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I love your property. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
One of my favorites.
A lot of work we're getting. A lot of water.
Could we do like a 5-minute recess if
No.
possible, or?
No, we're not.
Okay.
No, it's not.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your service.
Couple minutes, huh?
The
Motion for recess.
Recess. Sorry. Thank you.
You're good now, sir.
Okay.
You gotta roll.
Got me for like 30 seconds.
Yes, we'll take a look back. Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, I like that answer. Just write the number down on the back of this.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I've got a sticky. I've got a sticky with your name and all.
Patty used to handle our account a lot.
Okay, Patty Lundy.
Yeah, but usually by the end of February, pay it all off so we can start that, but we're gonna have to probably raise that budget.
Yes, I think it's
200.
okay. I don't tell you. Yeah, right. Yep, let me-
I can't see this.
Okay, now see if we can do.
Okay, thanks.
I will get back with you this week.
Oh, here, I have one. There's one right here.
Yep, I think that's what he said. We can put us in. Mute us.
Get it back in order here. See ya. Okay, everybody ready? All right. Action item number 2. That's great. Okay.
We'll be done by tomorrow.
All right. Okay, we're going to talk about buying a front end loader. Okay, this will be good. All right, Bob, tell us what you need here.
Front end loader. So
Ask for anything.
the approved adopted budget this year includes an item, $200,000 for a front end loader, and we have identified one, the same one we used to budget for $199,500. So wants versus needs. Our current loader is over, we purchased it over 20 years ago, used. It's a little beat up. It's not as reliable as it used to be. I feel like we've gotten a lot of good work out of this loader over the last 23 years. And the loader is an important piece of equipment for the town. We use it for everything that requires heavy lifting, material handling, solids handling at both plants, various earthwork projects, snow removal. You guys have seen the loader out there during snow events. Sometimes that thing has been down on us a few times. So we do feel like this loader is going to enable us to maintain and really expand the services that we provide to the community in those areas in particular. And we do believe that we need a reliable, newer loader. And so we're here to ask the board to allow us to purchase that loader in accordance with the approved budget. And I can answer any questions. I think the specs on the machine is attached in the purchase contract, so please.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, so with the loader that we're purchasing, are we purchasing a brand new machine, a used machine, a semi-used?
It's a brand new machine.
Brand new machine, okay. What are the differences in costs if we were to look at doing something used versus purchasing something brand new?
This is being purchased through the state bid. You know, they've set up kind of certain pieces of equipment that you can buy through the state. Those prices are negotiated and bid on a statewide level. It's called the Sourcewell program. We buy our vehicles through there as well. So as a kind of analogous example, I would tell you that we can get a 4-door Chevy with a V8 in it for about $24,000. You can't go buy that from the auto parts store or the auto store. It's the same kind of the same thing with loaders too. They're significantly cheaper than what it would take to buy it off of the market. So I don't know if you remember the discussion we had about the mid-range dump truck and the snow plows. In that case, we did decide not to buy a new truck. I think some of y'all might remember that. And in fact, leveraged that same amount of money into three trucks, all of which were used. In this case, we feel like a new loader is a pretty good value. It's extremely cost effective. And I don't know that we could find a used loader for that much more than this, or that much less than this, I should say. So, no, we haven't looked at that.
Extremely hard to find right now.
Yeah, they're hard to lease. They're hard to rent. Their loaders are in short supply right now, for sure. Same things happen to that market that happened to the used automobile market.
Is this something you kind of have set aside, like the dealer is kind of like holding it for the town, or?
Actually, he has it right now. The dealer has it right now. The Titan Machinery in Windsor.
Because again, I mean, and I don't know if the heavy equipment has experienced some of the increases in pricing. I mean, what, copper's up 500%, PVC pipe up 200%. I mean, they're made out of steel, and I mean,
know, this sourceful contract is also a lot less volatile than the private sector markets, for sure.
So we made a used one last 20 years. What is the life expectancy of a new one?
There's no reason why we couldn't get at least 20 years out of this one. I'd say 25 even, or 30 out of this loader. It's not like we put the kind of hours on it that a construction company puts on it. They run it all day, every day. But when we need it, we really need it. We need it right then. And we have to actually have it in our possession because everybody else needs it at the same time too, during, say, a snow event, right? And they're just not available at that time. So the short answer is 25, maybe 30 years in terms of how many hours we put on a machine like this.
There have been a lot of times that you've come before the board talking about used equipment. So I would just want to compliment you and the public works staff on all the hard work you guys put into keeping that fleet up and running, because you made lemonade out of lemons a lot of times. And I'm thankful for that, because you know, that you, like you said, you maximized 3 out of 2 when we asked you to take a second look. So thank you for that. That takes a lot of hard work, and being able to maintenance our fleet in-house as well, and have the knowledge and expertise to deal with those repairs also saves a lot of money on having to replace those, because if you're not doing a good job maintaining them and don't have the knowledge to replace them, then you're doing it more frequently. So I think that that's important to take into consideration too, that our staff, when they get new pieces of equipment or even used pieces of equipment, they treat it exceptionally well and it lasts a long time.
And this piece of equipment, is it, when we got that big snowstorm last year, wasn't this piece of equipment, the loader, necessary so the fire department could actually go on calls because the roads were impassable?
Yeah, we used it for, there was so much snow that we used it to just get the snow out of the way. Some of the plows couldn't even handle that amount of snow. We also used it to clear a path out to both plants. Our operators have to get out to those plants right away, especially in a snow event where the power in that instance went down. So yeah, it is a piece of equipment that we've got to have, and it's got to be there in good working condition when we need it. And we are starting to worry a little bit about failures in this loader. And that's why we're here tonight, asking for your authorization to purchase this.
A quick question. I mean, I know on the vac truck, there was a regulatory requirement that, I don't know, from CDPHE, that we had equipment either rented or on hand to deal with blockages in the sewers and things like that. Is there any regulatory requirement, because it's going to be used at both water and wastewater, that a similar?
Indirectly, I mean, we have lots of compliance requirements on solids handling at both plants, especially on the wastewater plant. Those have to get into a truck and hauled off site. So indirectly, yes, we do have compliance requirements. I think the loader is probably more relevant to the level of service that we provide in certain instances, especially snow events, but also the types of projects that we're able to do ourselves, like the soft trail replacement. We've had a multi-year program to go in and concrete or pave some of the gravel hike and bike trails through town. Well, we've done that with in-house staff, and the reason why we were able to do that is because we have the equipment to do it. You can't haul 100 tons of material in buckets. You know, you need a loader to do that.
Thank you.
I know that we were planning to need this, and that's why we included it in the budget. And obviously, sounds like it's required in order to provide a reliability here. So I have no concern with this. I'm glad that we found a good deal.
Yeah. Sounds like you gotta have it. We talked about it. Hate to have a town didn't have a loader, you know, but the price is good. You're not going to go find you're not going to find anything cheaper than that. I mean, no way. And it's a brand new one. I'm surprised it's not $350,000. Yeah, it's a big loader. So, you know, this might not be one that you can cut. You have to find some other stuff in that if that time comes, when that time comes. So this may not be one of them. but we're gonna have to find it somewhere else.
If you asked me to find things to cut, I would go find something
You would,
else.
you would rather find something else. That's the answer. Okay, I'm good. All right, then, open up to the public for some comments. Come on up.
Sherelle Teets, 4525 Ingalls Drive. I apologize. I just was looking for clarification from the budget because there's 2 front-end loaders requested. There's one for streets and then there's one for water. Which one is this one for?
Streets.
Got it. So that's for the estimated completion date 2022. So then we probably won't expect to see the water one come in a request until 2024.
That's correct, although that's subject to revision, as is the entire 5-year CIP.
Got it. So right now we're requesting 2 per our budget, but right now we only have 1 up for presentation.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, good question. All right, we'll bring it back to the board.
Well, I just want to add a comment that oftentimes these expenditures are put in a 5-year plan, a 3 to 5 year plan, looking at one, how to budget for it, but also looking at how maybe it's needed or where the other one's going to break. So things get moved around in the CIP and the schedule depending on what the needs are. But some of these things have been in these, had these placeholders for several years. It's not like it was magically pulled out. It's, you know, if you go through older budgets, you might see that it was in there for since 2020.
A lot of projects are like that, and then they just magically drop off. Okay, but that's just the way it goes. Budgeting, things change, as we're gonna do. Okay, if there's other comments, then let's go ahead and entertain a motion to do the purchase of the 729G, an end loader. Anyone?
I make a motion that we purchase the front end loader under the streets fund for the amount of $199,500.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Trustee Kinney,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald,
Yes.
Trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knudsen,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes. All right, Bob. Item 3, Resolution 11-2022. It's a resolution of the town of Wellington designating representatives authorized to coordinate with Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment and the Colorado Water Resources to Power Development Authority regarding financial assistance matters. Tell us about all that.
Good evening, Dave Meyer, staff engineer. I'll be brief. This is a matter of formality.
Oh.
On record with the state grants and loans unit, our authorized officers that are no longer employed by the state town of Wellington, excuse me. We are looking to change those individuals to the 4 individuals listed there: Patty Garcia, Kelly Hodling, Bob Gowing, and Megan Smith. These individuals will be responsible for final signatures on pay applications when we file for reimbursements for our loans for the water treatment plant through the SRF loan process.
Any questions about that? Go ahead, Trustee Gator.
So the only question I have that makes sense is, I'm assuming as their signers, they're allowed to take action without board approval. What all is that limited to? Like, can they change terms of the loan? Can they change amounts, or is it just, I just don't know what they can or can't do?
My understanding of that, Trustee Gaither, is these individuals will be responsible for approving any kind of withdrawals from the loan that we currently have in place for the water treatment plant. If there are any kind of changes to loan terms, I believe those would be brought up to the town administrator first and then possibly to the board.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's all I had.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay. Anyone from public like to talk about this? Pretty from, like you said, it's formality. We got old people that were working, they're not here anymore.
That's correct.
Okay, not older employees. Former employees. My gosh. Get it right.
This is part of the process. This is not something new. This is very typical for this type of project.
That's correct. That's correct. And we'll have the same authorized officers identified for the wastewater treatment plant. We won't need a resolution for that. We'll be filing those individuals, the same 4 listed here, when we close the loan in March.
Thank you.
All right. All that being said, can I get a motion to pass resolution 11-2022?
Mayor, I move that we approve, I move that we approve resolution 11-2022, resolution of the town of Wellington designating representatives authorized to coordinate with Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment and the Colorado Water Resources and Power Development Authority regarding financial assistance matters.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
Trustee Kinney,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald,
Yes.
Trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knudsen,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes. Item 4, resolution number 06-2022. This is a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with Colorado Intergovernmental Risk Sharing Agency, CIRSA, they call it. Illegal and loss control services for the town of Wellington. Patty, you want to tell us a little bit, please?
Thank you, Patty Garcia, Town Administrator. Thank you, Mayor and Trustees. So this is a resolution authorizing the agreement with CIRSA for their services for 2022. In the past, we had our company that managed our risk was Alliant. They are a company that oversees and works with multiple types of industries and companies. And CIRSA is great because it only works with local municipalities. They have over 270 members throughout the state of Colorado. One of the benefits of working with CIRSA is they do provide training for municipalities, whether that's through driving, you name it. They provide lots of different types of training for your municipality. And as you complete that training, you get a reduction in your premiums. We can also join other municipalities that are CIRSA members as well and do the training all together, which is really great, helping us to learn how to work together and things like that. Staff's pretty excited about having them compared to what we'd had in the past. We do have Courtney Fagan, who is the Strategy and Member Engagement Manager, and Debbie Coleman, who is a Senior Underwriting Representative on the line. If you all had any questions specific to what they cover and the services they offer, they are best to speak to that. I can just tout the experience I've had with them, which has been really great over the past 20 some odd years. So, and I think I see Courtney.
Okay. We want to hear from Courtney? Do we need to?
Could you give us some of the other municipalities that you guys currently serve?
Yeah, I can certainly do that. Are you looking for just those in your area or?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, let me pull up a list really quick.
From my understanding from CL, the Colorado Municipal League conference that we attended, it's very best practice and common that CIRSA represents those municipalities. It was very consistent from everyone I spoke with. So I just wanted to make sure though that that's honest to.
Yeah, CIRSA has an 85% market share, meaning that 85% of Colorado cities and towns are members of CIRSA. I am just pulling up a list right now of all the members in your zone.
As she does that, I can tell you I think we reached out to CIRSA today to help us with a question about how to handle some property issues and things like that, and gave us a really great response, saved us from having to saved Mr. Sapienza some time and also saved us some billable hours.
I've been quarantined at home with a sick kid. So just in the last week, I know of at least 2 calls to CIRSA on different issues that have been incredibly valuable for the town of Wellington. So I've not had experience with them in the past, but over the last week, I'm sold. So
That's good.
Well, that's great to hear. So we've got Berthoud, Decono, Eaton, Estes Park, Evans, Firestone, Garden City, Gilcrest, Jamestown, Johnstown, Loveland, Lyons, Mead, Platteville, Severance, Timnath, Windsor, all in your area.
Wow.
Thank you, Courtney.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you for hanging out on the call for so long. I appreciate your time this evening.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Trustee Gary?
Yeah, so I just had a couple of questions. I didn't see any numbers in there in terms of the costs of what is that difference? Is it less than, more than what we had with Alliance, or?
It's a little bit more. It was, I think, about $6,000 more per year. But we felt in the long, and that was just for our first year. They didn't, CIRSA didn't receive any background information from us because we couldn't get it from our former insurance company. So we're kind of starting off at not in a great spot, but as I have learned working with CIRSA in the past, as we finish those, we keep our risk down. We don't have a lot of accidents. We, take part in the trainings. That does help reduce our premium.
Okay, and then roughly, what are we getting additional? I know you mentioned the training is good. Working with other municipalities, what else are we getting that's different from what we had before?
Well, I know another one is that they do provide scholarships for conferences. So if you would attend CML and attend their business meeting, and Courtney, correct me if I'm wrong, they generally pay for one night's lodging and your mileage to and from the conference. So those are some of the perks. Courtney may be able to speak to others.
If it's over 250 miles, we'll pay for 2 nights of lodging and travel expenses. Like I think Patty touched on earlier, we have a huge training program available to municipalities. We've got online, on-site, regional trainings. We're doing some defensive driving, ICE driving up in Georgetown right now that's available to all members. We also have a huge selection of elected official specific training. Our general counsel, Sam Light, can come out and conduct training for your boards and councils, trustees. Our coverage package is pretty untouchable. We've got huge limits, much more than you would be able to obtain on your own. And I think that was witnessed in the coverage comparison that we did between Alliant and Wellington. And I think just our specialized municipal focus, all of our coverages and programs are specifically tailored to Colorado municipalities because that's all we insure. We only work with municipalities in the state. All of our employees have a lot of tenure and a lot of experience. We also work with a panel council of attorneys that specializes specifically in municipal risk and municipal law. So if you do end up going to court, you're going to be in really great hands. Obviously, we're going to try to prevent that from happening.
And sadly, I did learn in Loveland, they had to represent me 2, maybe 3 times, and we were all successful. So thank you.
And then, that's good to know.
It was never my fault.
So I know you mentioned that trainings are a way to help cut costs. I'm assuming there's a cost associated with doing those trainings, or is that covered within our yearly fee to have you guys do all of those trainings, or how does that work?
Correct. It's
Oh,
included.
sorry, Patty.
Sorry, I wasn't sure who was.
Okay, so if we did every single possible training in the entire book, we don't get charged any additional money beyond our initial membership. Is that correct understanding?
That is correct. We also offer industrial hygiene services that I forgot to mention. So if you need any noise, mold, air sampling, that's another service that we offer free of charge. It's an all-inclusive membership.
So when that can be really expensive. That's a nice benefit. I did not know that they provided.
Yeah, we're pretty excited.
Okay.
Constant improvement.
Anything else? Let's open up the public. Is there anything you want to talk about? Want to know a little bit more about CIRSA?
No, but I do want to return your sheet.
Okay. I don't blame you. Okay. All right, we'll bring it back to the board. Can I get a motion to approve resolution number 06-2022 to hire CIRSA?
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 06-2022, a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with Colorado Intergovernmental Risk Sharing Agency, CIRSA, for legal and loss control services for the town of Wellington.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
Trustee Kinney,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald,
Yes.
Trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knudsen,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes.
That's a
Okay.
quick question while we have this is not relevant to, it said in there was a thing about optional excess crime in the bylaws or something. I was just confused as to what that was. I don't know if either of you knows. I'm not looking at the page. Let me look. No, your base 71. Page 71. It's go ahead.
No, that's okay. This is
I'm Debbie Coleman. I'm your underwriting representative. There's $150,000 of crime coverage provided in your property policy itself, but we do offer, and it does cost additional premium. We do offer an optional program for excess crime that you can get up to 500,000, 2 million, or 5 million limits. And we write that through a third party. We don't get any money out of it. We write it through a third party, but it's it isn't a choice. If you want to go that route, we can certainly get you a quote.
Got it. If you just get more information to Patty, we'll talk about it offline. It's not relevant to now. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
We already got, I think we approved it. I just had a quick question. I'm sorry. I know.
Okay. All right. All right, maybe we do need another roll call, okay? All right, item 5, resolution 08-2022. It's a resolution authorizing staff to seek grant funding from the Colorado Department of Transportation. Come on, Kelly.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees. This is a resolution to authorize staff to apply for the CDOT grant that we previously applied for last year. This will improve, if successful with this grant, crosswalks, drainage, parking, ADA accessibility with ramps and parking downtown, and include additional curb extension. With the opening of our middle and high school, we are very concerned about Cleveland Avenue being a main thoroughfare for our parents, for our students. And so that's a main component of this grant application, is the safety of all of our users, especially our sensitive population and our at-risk youth in this situation where they could be dangerous crossings. So if successful, we are hoping to get the $2 million. We have included in our budget $400,000. And then you'll note in next year's 2024 budget, we also included 1.6 million. That's not saying we're going to spend that, but that's saying if we were successful with the grant application. So I know there was a comment from the public earlier about that. That's not saying it's an additional 1.6 million. If we are successful, that's $400,000 for this grant. Is there any questions about this opportunity? The deadline is February 4th, so it's quickly approaching. I will say we did have a first review by our state DOLA representatives, and it was very favorable. They thought it was a much stronger application than last time. A lot of positive comments, which was helpful to see. They feel like this is a very strong application going through. But again, we would need the board's support to be able to apply for this through this resolution.
Okay, this is what we missed out on last year, right?
Yes, and I will also say this is aligned with the board's strategic plan. So we have areas in there about infrastructure. This is currently a budgeted item. We have drainage issues that's also within our strategic plan, and the board has also asked us, and the public has asked us, turn over every stone you can to look for money for every opportunity that we can. And we are doing that.
Okay. All right, questions?
Well, I know anybody who goes to Main Street after it rains will understand. I mean, the drainage up there is, well, it has been a mess for, ask Curtis. So, I mean, just fixing that aspect is huge because it has been a perennial problem and it's significant. So I did some work on this earlier on, did some drawings. I'm glad you guys tuned it up and you said it's stronger. Let's go get it.
I'm excited to get that money. So thank you for all your work on that. I'm 100% behind this, and I'm really looking forward to the safety improvements on Main Street. That'll be really good. I almost got ran over today, but instead I just got shot with a bunch of slush. Yeah, slush. But yeah, I think it would be really helpful.
Trustee Gator, got anything?
Yeah, so what is the amount that we are committed to if we do approve staff going after this and we do get the grant? Is it just the 400,000 or can that number go up?
No, what we are putting in the grant application is that we can match $400,000, so 20%. If you do a 20%, that's the highest points for the application. And so we feel like if we do the 20%, we'll have a higher chance of getting that award. So every grant has different points for each question. You can do 10% though, it's just, you don't get as awarded as many points through that question.
Okay, so it wouldn't be something that would come back and like, could say, we got the grant, but now we're gonna need 600,000. It would just be 400,000 that we're matching.
That's what we have included in the application, correct? That it's $400,000.
And then of the projects that were included in that application, I know there's a lot of them around walkability and improvements. And I agree the drainage is a major issue. What percentage of that? Because you have a bunch of tasks, but I don't know what numbers are associated to which projects within the different things you have listed there. Like, is the drainage the majority of that? Is that like 5% of it, 10% of it?
Oh, like the dollar amount
Yeah,
for each? You know, I don't have the grant application in front of me. I know Nathan has done a great job putting that together, the engineering budget for that, so he could speak to that. But we have things like striping, the drainage. I don't have that in front of me. I can certainly send that to you though.
Okay. If you could send the breakdown, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Questions? No? Okay, I'm all for it. I think we're gonna get it this time. I really feel good about it. Okay, let's open it up to the public. Any comments on this grant application?
Sherelle Teets, 4525 Ingalls Drive. So, in looking at the $2 million in grant funding for the Colorado Department of Transportation, this is solely to reduce pooling and flooding, not to actually get down, look at removing old culverts, installing new culverts, so there's appropriate drainage for many, many years to come. Yes, no?
It's a good question. Yes, if you have an answer.
This is one component of it. We have also, I'll present later on this evening, all of our list of grant opportunities that we are applied for. And we also applied for, I believe it was a FEMA grant to address more of the drainage issues downtown. So we're hoping that if we get this project, in addition to the other funding, we can have a more serious look at all of the drainage on Cleveland.
So to answer John's question, then no, it does not just cost us $400,000.
No, that she said that the match for this grant is $400,000. So if we're talking about addressing the entire stormwater drainage issue in its entirety, that's a different topic.
Got it. So this is mainly to improve curbs, gutters, and do part of the master plan that the town is wanting to go towards, something that possibly could be put on hold while we consider residents' water bills.
This is a piece of a much larger scale plan.
Got it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, good questions. Bring it back to the board for some final comments. If there's nothing, let's.
So just a quick question on the drainage piece. So what exactly does this grant specifically address? Because as Trustee McDonald said, there's a lot more going on there. What does this fix? Does this, I guess the question is the work that would be done as a part of this piece of work that would have to be undone to actually fix the ultimate problem?
Bob Gowing, Public Works Director. No, we don't plan on doing work and then redoing work. That's not part of any of our plans. In general, we need a little bit more money than this to create the outfalls down to Coal Creek and Box Elder Creek to truly get the 100-year storm out of downtown. What we intend to address with this is the more nuisance flows, like the water that's sitting at 3rd in Cleveland right now, that's about this deep. We'd like to go ahead and get rid of that after the storm leaves. So this isn't a comprehensive drainage solution. It's more about improving the safety and the look and the parking along Cleveland. While we're there, we also intend to fix as much of that nuisance flooding as we can.
Okay, so this would kind of set us up that this would be something that wouldn't have to be done when we go do the more comprehensive, because we already did it with this grant, sort of.
In general, you could think of it that way, right? So we would put, hopefully, assuming that we can make the project fit the budget 2 years from now, which is always a bit of a roll of dice, get the inlets in there. And right now we're looking at probably infiltration type inlets to take the nuisance flow out of there. We also want to get enough pipe in there so that in the future we can extend that pipe down to the creeks to get it out of downtown altogether. But it is a complicated problem.
As some of you know, we're right in the middle of a stormwater master plan right now that Nathan is managing for us. And we'll have more answers as that modeling comes in. But the intention right now is to address nuisance flooding and then all the other things that we've talked about with the project.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, if I have no other questions or comments, let's, can I entertain a motion to authorize the staff to seek the grant funding from the Colorado Department of Transportation, resolution in 08-2022?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
Trustee Kinney,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald,
Yes.
Trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knudsen,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes. Item 6, resolution number 09-2022. Resolution of the Board of Trustees making appointments to the Community Activities Commission. Patty.
Yes, I miss Crystal since she's not here
Sorry.
tonight. She's off on vacation, bless her heart. So this is a resolution appointing members to the Community Activities Commission. Trustees McDonald and Whitehouse, along with town staff and members of the specific board, met and held interviews. They are recommending the appointment of Wyatt Schwindeman Curtis to a term expiring January 2025, Diana Sinatra to a term expiring January 2025, Mario Quinones, term expiring January 2024, and JD Richardson, term expiring January 2023. Staff recommends approval.
Comments?
Just one question for staff, and then I'd love to just hear from the trustees that interviewed why they felt these were good candidates. And I'd be love to just hear you guys' thoughts and be good at that. The only question for staff was what was the determination as to who was assigned which term? Because this was kind of unique in that we had several different terms all come up at the same time, some from people leaving seats, some from regular expiration. Was there any process in assigning people to which term, or how did that work?
She did not give me that information. I can find out when she returns. Generally, it's your incumbents get the longer terms and your newer people get the shorter terms, but I don't know. And sometimes it's based on what the applicant is requesting. Sometimes they aren't ready to take on the full 3 or 4 year term, but they would prefer to do a 2-year term to check it out type thing. So, but I can check in with Crystal and let everybody know. Absolutely.
Everybody who serves on a board commission for the town of Wellington, I want to thank you in advance for your countless volunteer hours and your commitment to the community to support us. So I appreciate the work that you guys do. So thank you in advance for that work, or if you're continuing on with that board or commission, I really appreciate you. So thank you.
Would you like to comment on the interview?
Yeah,
Okay.
I love doing committee interviews. That's one of my favorite things to do as a trustee. I do. I really do enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. And it's a great opportunity to get to know the people that are representing the community as volunteers, right? So you don't very often get a chance to have an intimate conversation with them like that. Once they're appointed to the board, they're busy doing their boardly duties. They're busy planning events or attending other meetings or doing their due diligence and learning all the information that they can. And it is a lot of work. And so I am so very thankful that we have the opportunity to do the interviews, because for so many years, we would just appoint anybody that turned in an application because they had a warm body and they were willing to sit in the seat. And to have grown and developed these committees and these commissions to where they're people want to join and people want to apply and they like giving back in that way. It's pretty amazing. It's a magical thing. It's a warm fuzzy. That's a warm fuzzy when you're an elected official, to have that opportunity to get to know these people and then appoint them and then watch them work their magic out in the community. So thank you so much for your time and for entertaining the interviews as well. That was, you have to take time out of your evening and participate. So thank you for that. The candidates all were willing to meet the time commitment. They all had a unique flavor to bring to the board or commission, or a set of skills to help enhance what that commission does. So I feel very confident in all of the applicants that we are appointing this evening are going to do a fantastic job moving forward and do a great job being representatives of the town of Wellington.
Yeah, I have to say that Trustee McDonald asked some great interview questions. I was like, oh, I should have thought of that. But you know, Wyatt is, I think, returning as chair to the CAC. I think that's a position he's held before, and it seems to be running along pretty well. Miss Sinatra brings a huge wealth of experience in planning events. She is more on a corporate side, but sounds like, yeah, this is what she does. So again, she's got a lot of energy. Mario, certainly, he's, from talking to him, he has clearly been engaged in the community, both this community and communities volunteering for numerous different organizations, like, I don't know, homeless shelters, and I don't have the list in front of me, but he's looking for a place to kind of engage around, you know, in his community now. And it sounds like it's something he's been doing for a long time. So I think he's bringing a lot. And then I believe JD is out here in the audience. I think so. And she's fun to talk to. I mean, but yeah, again, very diverse group of people, and I'm looking forward to see what they're going to do. So, oh, someone's getting up.
Like, can I speak in a second?
Of course you may. Come on up. I think we're done, right?
So this gentleman also assisted us in the interview. So,
but not in the selection, just in the interviews.
Yeah, just in the interviews. Wyatt Schwindeman-Curtis, chair of the CAC. The three that we're getting, I'm very excited about. We've been vacant since July, the end of July, and we've really needed this help. So I'm very excited to have a full board starting February 1st. So
I bet.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you for hanging in there too, Wyatt. Appreciate it. Anyone else like to talk about it? Okay. You want to say something?
Yeah, if you want to. You don't have to. No pressure.
That's fine. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. All right, we'll bring it back to the board again. Thank you all for all being on the board. CAC is very important, really important to this town. So if I hear no further comments, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the resolution number 9-2022.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 9-2022, a resolution of the Board of Trustees making appointments to the Community Activities Commission as presented in the packet.
second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
Trustee Kinney,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald,
Yes.
Trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knudsen,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes. Okay, moving on. Resolution number 10-2022. This is a resolution of the Board of Trustees making appointments to the Wellington Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
Same type of resolution, just for another advisory board. This is to appoint Laura Lynn Bockelman and Kelly Cooper to terms expiring January 2025 to the Wellington Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And staff
Questions on
recommends
these
approval.
individuals?
The only question I had is thought we had already appointed Callie to the Parks Board. So did we not do that, or what?
Yes, we did, but it was for a very short term.
Got it.
So
Okay.
she was appointed to
just
fill a
confused.
term, and now this is like the real term.
Okay, perfect. That was my only question.
Absolutely.
Okay. Huh?
Well, okay. Yeah, I mean, Lori Lynn Bockelman, she has been with, well, I guess it's the PRAB now, since inception. So she's bringing a lot of experience, and actually, Dean Campos said that she was able to provide him with a lot of background information regarding sort of the history and where they've been and all that. So you got the great resource there. Then Callie Cooper has incredible energy. And so I think adding her to this board is only going to be a plus. So
I would agree. And I'm going to start with Callie on this one. It was my favorite part of interviewing Callie was I was curious what her passion was or why she was applying for the board. And she really sold me on her passion for parks and her reason why she wants to participate and be involved. So snaps, kudos, thumbs up, like great. Like I couldn't have answered the question any better myself, Callie. I learned a lot about you in that interview. So thank you for that opportunity. I'm excited to see what you bring to the Parks Advisory Board after all of the awesomeness that you brought to the town through Main Street. And Laura Lynn, that girl deserves a gold award. She gives it her all. She has been a part of the Parks Advisory and Recreation Board now for since its inception and even prior to. I mean, she is your epitome of a citizen group turning something into a viable thing to the community. Like without Laura Lynn, we wouldn't have the community park that we have here today, that we all get to enjoy and that we celebrated the 4th of July in this year. So her knowledge, her history, her dedication, her passion, and her patience is such a valuable asset. And I am so thankful that she decided to reapply for the Parks Advisory and Recreation Board. So I am really excited about these 2 appointments. I think that they are really going to enhance the Parks Advisory Board and help keep some of those goals and those projects moving forward that sometimes that's a really difficult area to balance the operational budget aspect and then the community desire. I think that the price tag that the community has on what they want to see from the parks and recreation is very different from what is actually logistically feasible and operational. And so to have that direct input from an advisory board to bring that balance and help provide that citizen comment and that citizen edge and really maintain that pulse on the services that are important to the citizens is really, really important.
Okay, all right. Public comment? You're good?
I love the parks. I will say that we enjoy them on a regular basis. So I've known Laurelyn for a very long time, and I knew that she had been working with the parks. So extremely grateful for my kiddos having some place to enjoy.
Good, good. All right, anyone else? Quick? No? Okay, let's bring it back to the board. Can I get a motion to approve resolution number 10-2022, resolution appointing the Wellington Parks and Recreation Advisory Board.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 10-2022, a resolution of the Board of Trustees making appointments to the Wellington Parks and Recreation Advisory Board as presented in the packet.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
Trustee Kinney,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald,
Yes.
Trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knutson,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes, item 8.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patty. Last one. This is a consideration of Wellington, Colorado Main Streets Program 2022 Memorandum of Understanding with the Town of Wellington. Anita.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you tonight?
Pretty good.
Wonderful. I want to thank you all for this opportunity and for your consideration of the continuation of the Memorandum of Understanding between the town and the Wellington, Colorado Main Streets Program for 2022. This MOU continues this important relationship between us. And as Callie explained earlier in her presentation, kind of shared some of the things that the Main Street programs brings back to our downtown and to our community as a whole. And these include such things as our beautification programs, access to some of those really important grant opportunities, and then consulting funds in order to help make sure that we really are doing those, presenting those grants applications in an appropriate way so we have a greater opportunity to receive those funds. Also helping maintaining those property inventories and supporting economic development through our downtown and program area, and the collaboration of the town on all of the enhancements to the appearance of our program area and assistance with the design guidelines. So I'm just here to ask for your consideration and approval on behalf of the Main Streets program and our board to continue this MOU for 2022. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions for Anita on this side? No?
This is a requirement, though. I mean, between the town, and we need to have this agreement per DOLA or the state that.
Correct. There is an agreement between DOLA and the town first. That's the first level. That states that the town of Wellington is in support of the Main Streets program, especially now that we are a graduate program. And then this and that MOU between DOLA and the town, I have a copy of it, shares some of the responsibilities of the town to house a Main Streets program and what DOLA will provide in return. And then the second part of that is, since you have that agreement, then there needs to be an agreement between the town and the actual program, which is that the Main Streets program that we have and we know here today.
So it is a stair-step system that you first have that agreement with the town and then DOLA that says, yes, our town wants this Main Street program and this is what we're going to do. And then you have to contract that through that MOU. Contract's the wrong word, I apologize. You bring those two pieces together through this MOU from the town into the Main Streets program.
Anything? Trustee King?
Department of Local Affairs, DOLA.
Thank you. It's just in my head. I apologize.
Just out of curiosity, we're not your only community partner, correct? Main Streets works with other organizations. This is just a formality. Do you mind just like running through a list of some of the other organizations you partner with?
Oh, in the community?
Yeah.
You know, we collaborate with a chamber. We work with the Parks and Recreation Board for, you know, utilizing the parks, Centennial Park downtown. We work closely with the fire department. We work closely with the library. We utilize all of the different community commissions here in town, including the CAC. On a lot of the things that we do downtown and right here in our local community. We also collaborate on a larger area with other Main Street programs throughout the state. We work with oh my goodness, Callie, I think I might need to ask her for some of her input on this because she's the one that runs this on a day-to-day basis. Thank you.
Sure. We also partner with the Larimer County SBDC. We partner through the Larimer County Economic Development and Workforce, especially through COVID. We did a lot of work through their boards and commissions. I also serve with Historic Larimer County. So we do a lot of sort of stuff that's local, but we also do stuff that's countywide as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. I just thought it was important to highlight that we're not your primary, your only partner. You guys use a lot of people to achieve your goals and objectives.
We absolutely do. We absolutely do. And we receive grant funding through the Bohemian Foundation historically, as well as, you know, regular, what we call mini grants on an annual basis to help with some of these programs. So, and things that we do throughout the community. Everything from initially, one of the very first things that we did with the mini grant was that funded our ability to put the downtown flower planters in trash bins here that we all see right, you know, every day now. That and now that particular program has kind of taken off, that is funded completely through sponsorships from individuals and businesses throughout our community in order to keep those flowers looking gorgeous through the summer, to keep them watered, to keep them maintained. And then we use so many volunteer hours that have put together the fall and winter decorations that we see inside of those flower planter bins. It is because of the Main Streets program that we have this facade grant that's just come together that brought in a lot of money, over almost $700,000 for some of those projects that we're seeing. And that's not just facades as far as painting and awnings, but there's energy efficiency components to that. And it's also not just our businesses that are seeing that in our program area, but residents as well in the program area could apply for that. And we have several residents in our program area that are accessing those funds. They're putting in solar panels to help them with their electricity costs there. I know of a couple individuals who are getting their HVAC systems replaced by utilizing those funds. So the payback has been wide-reaching.
One of my favorite projects that doesn't get mentioned very often was during COVID, Main Street helped assist with the banners that helped to highlight the students that graduated during that time that didn't get to walk with their class and missed out on that super awesome experience. So I appreciate that Main Street tries to touch all of the different demographics in the community. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. We really enjoy it's a great board and we enjoy working on that board. It's fun to kind of pull together all of the different projects and events and see how can we make an impact here.
And how is this going to help us? And really that one of those big goals is everything that we do, we're going to be bringing people downtown. And when we're bringing people downtown, they're walking into our businesses. They're buying that cup of coffee or that greeting card that they see when they pick up their morning coffee. They're spending their dollars at our restaurants and brew houses, right? And they might not have normally done that without having some of these activities that are bringing them downtown. And Callie mentioned earlier when she was speaking, how now we're really going to be able to track 96 new customers at Soul Squared last week. That's important because every new customer that walks into Soul Squared or Old Colorado, Owl Canyon, those are sales tax dollars that are impacting your general fund. And those sales tax dollars that impact your general fund help take care of all of these other things that our community needs as a whole, just by what we're doing in this 5-block area from 1st to 6th. Now, granted, our program area expands up to the Leaper Center and the library all the way up here. And then on the south side of Cleveland Avenue of 2 blocks. Yeah, 2 blocks. So while we have that expansion, everything we're bringing downtown is bringing more sales tax dollars into our community. And we're really on a path now to track that and show that impact for the future. I could keep talking. I'm really passionate about this program. So,
well, thank you for highlighting those because it's important because we're talking about an understanding, an agreement that you're going to provide for us and we're going to provide for you, and how those relationships are going to work.
Absolutely.
Until the next time we look at an MOU.
Correct.
So it's important, I think, to highlight how those relationships are work within each other. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so I did, first off, I did want to thank you for the work you guys do. I got introduced to Main Streets with COVID, and you guys stepped up in a major way with getting through things. And so I appreciate all the work you guys have done. You have done great work. You heard my comments earlier about budget, and that's a major concern for me right now. I do appreciate that Callie had talked about one of the goals you guys have, and I've heard this several times, is really to get to a point where you guys are able to be self-funding more or less. The question I have is just kind of where are you guys at on that? Because I know as I kind of looked at the request, we've kind of seen that increase each year. Typically when you're trying to go self-funding, we're wanting to see it go the other direction. So kind of where are you guys at on that path? Is that still a goal to become self-funded so you don't have to, or where are you guys kind of at on that process?
Absolutely. And you know, self-funding is one of the top priorities. Being self-sustainable as a program is a priority for us as a board. I want to make sure that I'm very clear. Our request in 2021, or excuse me, in 2020 was for an additional $2,500 to assist in the watering of the flower planters as we expanded from Cleveland Avenue down 6th. Okay. So that way we had those kind of consistency along that retail corridor, you know, where the hotel is and the gas stations. And so those were technically outside of our program area. So we didn't have the capacity or the ability to cover the extension to water those.
Got it.
So that's where that funding was
great
increased from. From the inception of the program, this year's request for an additional $5,000 in our budget was the first time that we've asked for additional funds for our budgets, or excuse me, for our program's actual budget. Okay. That $2,500 again was for a specific project.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Oh gosh, I wish I could say it was really easy for us to become a self-sustaining program. It's not, and budget issues are a big deal. And I don't care if it's a household budget or a program budget or a town budget. We're fortunate, but also tied a little bit, that we have the opportunity for every dollar that we bring in to make a decision how we can spend that. And the board of the Main Streets program makes that decision, what's in the best interest based on our mission, our vision, and who we are as a program and our goals, where those dollars go. So for example, in this past year in 2021, we originally didn't anticipate even being able to have events or any fundraisers because we weren't sure the impact from the COVID pandemic start in 2020. So we didn't budget for any of that, right? So we were really excited when we actually had some fantastic results from all of the different events and as beneficiaries from both the Brewfest and the 0.5K. We chose to spend those dollars, and I want to say it's probably close to $20,000, and I can get that exact figure for you. I didn't bring it with me, but we put $12,000 back into a sign grant for the businesses in our program area so that they can apply for new signage. We have 2 applicants that we're working with right now. I believe that's Rust Vintage Market and the Cakery that are going to be getting new signs. They're just in that process of going through the permitting and planning through the town. That's $12,000 that we could have put back into our budget for operational costs, but we gave it back to the community to help them, again, reaching one of our pillars of goals, which is that beautification and enhancing our downtown corridor. Other funds that we've spent this last year have been on closing being able to close down Cleveland Avenue so we could have the trick or treat that we had 3,000 attendees and all those kids and families. That was an important avenue to spend those dollars in. So with that, we recognize 100%, and it is a, Patty Garcia does attend our board meetings on a monthly basis. So she hears us. We do talk about how are we going to raise money so we can get towards this goal. And then we make decisions to put those monies right now. The last couple of years has all gone back into our businesses. I would welcome an opportunity from anyone to come help us look at this and make those decisions as far as should these dollars go back to our community and help building those sales tax revenues, or do we reduce our ask here and then we're not helping those businesses? And that's a tough choice.
Sure, absolutely. And again, just not to take away, again, you guys
Not
are
at
doing
all.
great work, but again, and it's right, this is a memorandum of understanding, right? It's us working together because again, right, as
Absolutely.
you heard tonight, right, we're sitting here trying to figure out how to come up with $2.3 million. And so it's like, it's great. The sign grants, I'm sure that's going to be fantastic for those businesses, but then it's like, okay, that went to 2 members of the community. And yes, that affects other people. And so just that'd be an ask from my end as you as the board are considering that, is to keep that in mind, is that, you know, as much as you guys, yes, maybe it's things you can't put out, but then that allows us to maybe take some of those funds that we would have normally put into that, to whether it's going back into the funds, whether it's going into the intersection by the high school, is that, you know, funds that we are putting in this position while you guys are doing great work are also funds we can't use elsewhere. So that would just be my ask to you guys. You're doing great work, but please just keep that in mind as you make those decisions, is keep in mind that we're having to try and balance all of this too on our end. And it's a way that as partners, you guys could help us to make that a little bit easier if we're able to have less that we're having to send into the Main Streets program.
Oh, we absolutely do. But thank you for the reminder. Yep, definitely.
Anyone else? Thank you for everything you do.
You're so very
Appreciate
welcome.
Very much.
Sure thing.
Open up the public at this moment. You want to come up and talk on the issue? We welcome you. No? Okay. Bring it back to the board for consideration. Can I get a motion to approve the Wellington Colorado Main Streets Program 2022 Memorandum of Understanding with the Town of Wellington?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
Trustee Kinney,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald,
Yes.
Trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knudsen,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes. Hey, folks, that does it for our action items. Let's move right along into the reports. Attorney, got anything for us?
A very brief report. Last week, the board approved appointing Kristen Brown as the Marijuana Local Licensing Authority, and I said that I'd make sure to provide an update to that at the next meeting. Kristen has been working hard on the regulations, and we absolutely believe that all of that will be ready to go February 1st. One of the benefits of hiring her as an expert in that field is she can get it done
She can get it done well and she can get it done quickly. She's estimating at this point that her total time before February 1st, kind of to get everything in place, will be less than 30 hours and probably less than 25 hours of time, just so you all know that. If you have any questions on that, always feel free to give me a call. That's all I have.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that update. I really appreciate you keeping up with that.
Town Administrator.
Okay, one item, and for some reason my memo didn't make it into the packet. It shows in the packet, but doesn't show in the printed packet. So this is review of the current emergency declaration. The item is for the trustees to discuss the town's declaration of local disaster pursuant to CRS section 24-33.5-709 regarding COVID-19 as required by that statute, which allows the declaration to continue. The declaration was approved on April 14, 2020 and extended on April 28, 2020. Keeping the declaration in place would allow the activation of local and interjurisdictional disaster emergency plans and allow the commitment of resources if needed. The current unknown is if the emergency declaration will be required to access the federal and state funding that will soon be available for infrastructure needs. The emergency declaration in place does not put any requirements, regulatory or otherwise, on residents or businesses. If the trustees want to continue, the emergency declaration is adopted, no action is required, and the next review of the item will be in March 2022. If the trustees would wish to rescind the emergency declaration, a resolution to that effect will be included on the February 8th, 2022 agenda for consideration. It was just easier to read it. So just looking for some direction. If you're fine with keeping it in place, then we don't need to do anything. But if the majority of you, by kind of raising your hands would like to see it rescinded, then I can definitely have Dan put together a resolution. I think we do have one ready, and we can bring that back to the next meeting or discuss.
So I know one of the big things that was brought up with that was the comprehensive emergency management plan. When was the last time that any of those resources were activated here in Wellington?
I can't answer that. I do not know. Trustee McDonald, do you know?
I'm sorry, Trustee Gator, would you repeat the question?
Yeah, I know one of the big pieces of the emergency declaration, as Ms. Garcia said, is it allows that activation of emergency management. So that's one piece in here is the comprehensive emergency management plan. I know we had a whole setup with the fire department or fire district and several other pieces back in 2020. And I was just asking, is that currently active, or when was the last time any of those emergency resources were utilized here in Wellington?
Well, Trustee Gator, you are also on the incident command team. I think you can answer that question.
Okay, so I haven't seen anything since about July of 2020. So would that be accurate? Maybe I'm just not sure if there's things happening I'm not a part of.
You're correct. Okay. No, the incident command system has been broken down. The last time it was active was around the time that you'd mentioned. It was about a year ago.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, it was before I started. It has not been active since I've been on.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't things that I wasn't aware of. And then one of the other pieces that is a part of this emergency declaration is dealing and being able to deal with widespread damage and loss of life in Wellington. Have we experienced that? I haven't seen it.
We've had 11 deaths from COVID since the inception.
Since
at least that was
back in 2020. So over the 2 years, we've had 11 deaths. Okay. My concern continues to be on this. I understand that we've kept this in place as a potential way to keep with funding. And I would be fine if we want to put ourselves into a state of needing funding and reword this declaration to a needing funding, but we're not dealing with widespread emergency, destruction, and death. We're not utilizing and have not utilized for the last year and a half the incident command system that's a part of this. So I understand there's no requirements put on business, but it still bothers me that we're saying we are in a state of emergency when we are back in 2020, we truly were in a state of emergency. We didn't know what was happening, so it made sense. We're not there. And so we're keeping this going, saying, well, potentially there might be funding, yet no one has ever said anything about needing any funding for anything that's been pursued. We're just coming up with, well, potentially it could be there. So if we are actually in a state of emergency, and like it says in this, we have widespread death and disaster happening in Wellington, okay. If we are needing to utilize these emergency services, okay. But we're not. We haven't used it in a year and a half. So it bothers me that we're still continuing to maintain the state of emergency. And that's my thoughts on the matter.
I think you made a comment, and I don't know if it's still valid. Well, I think you made a comment about accessing federal funds, is that still, I think we've gone back and forth on that a couple times, and I don't know where that finally is.
Nothing is definitive, and that's, we just don't know. We just don't
Okay.
know. And that's why I wanted to be honest about that. We haven't been told one way or the other, and I don't know any
Right.
one way or the other if it's going to be required for when the federal funding gets distributed.
Has there ever been any comment to the matter that they would even consider requiring a state of emergency? Like, I don't know. I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah, I know there was at one time, but I think it was with the initial, what wasn't ARPA, what was
The CARES Act?
The CARES Act.
Okay.
I think you needed to have it for that, but I've not seen that as a requirement when I'm looking at ARPA or anything like that. So again, we don't know. We don't know.
Okay, and so kind of my thought on this as well is we've seen our state, who was the first one to go into state of emergency, came out of state of emergency, and then like 3 days later went back into state of emergency. So obviously they have a lot more at stake here than we do. So obviously for me, I'm like, if we have to go back into a state of emergency for something, then we can. But at the moment, I don't see any reason for us to be in a state of emergency.
I'm not interested in changing it.
You interested in doing anything? So, real quick though,
Yes.
what are other towns doing? Are they doing anything with it? Are they just letting it sit?
A little bit of both.
Both?
The city of Loveland just renewed theirs.
No.
I know Windsor rescinded theirs.
Okay.
So I mean, everybody's across the board. It's really based on the wishes of the trust of your elected officials.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, gosh, clearly not really in a state of emergency. You know,
But they also haven't finished writing the guidelines for what the funding looks
they
like.
haven't. I know, and we're
And-
in the mid. We got our hat out.
And what I've learned through this pandemic is, although it may not appear like on the surface we're in a state of emergency, we are in a state of emergency due to the additional wear and tear and use and stress on our water treatment and our sewer treatment facilities. We have the data that shows the spikes, and that extra wear and tear on those facilities shortens their lifespan.
We've also dedicated all of our rescue dollars for those projects as well, which kind of determines that those funds are being used in response to COVID. I want to say, and I think we're in schools could potentially start sending kids home. There's still very many ongoing concerns. Unfortunately, there are normal emergencies now. It's just, the new normal is very sad. But if there's any risk at all to funds that we could receive, I really don't want to take that risk. And if we don't know for sure, then why? I don't know. I don't think it's really affecting anything outside of protecting us from any additional risks of not being able to receive funds. And that's my concern.
You raised a really good point, and that's a good one too. The schools are going back and forth a lot. You don't know what they're going to do. That's a good point. We were impacted. Our water treatment plants were impacted during COVID. We didn't get any money for it.
Well, and I think that's why infrastructure is such
So
an important part of
so
it.
if it does come out, we got shovel-ready projects and we were impacted, we didn't get any money.
And they want to see that resolution as part of it.
Huh.
I mean,
Maybe
as long
there's
as,
something there. I don't know. If you take it away, then it's gone.
So where are you getting this information where you say they're going to be looking for us to have a state of emergency? No one has been able to answer this question yet.
I don't think that it is necessary to stay in a perpetual state of emergency.
Then why are we continuing to do it? You keep saying we need to stay here because it might cost us funding. Where are you getting information that says if we leave the state of emergency, we're going to leave fund? No one has been able to show
I
me
have
that.
spent 6 to 8 hours in just the last 7 to 10 days in grant webinars, listening to the guidelines coming out from the federal level on the appropriations, on the grant projects, on the infrastructure projects that are coming down the line. And they haven't finalized the guidelines for what that funding looks like. So until they're done writing the rules that say, these are the requirements that you need to tap into the funds that were caused from the pandemic, I'm not comfortable taking that risk on losing money that is critical for our infrastructure. A lot of the dollars that they're looking at moving down from the federal level are for water projects. They are for water infrastructure. I wish they were for fire trucks. I wish they were for ambulances, but they're not. They're infrastructure bills. So I don't want to take away the opportunity for us to really address a serious problem. If we don't have clean drinking water, we're in big trouble. And the additional wear and tear that was put on our infrastructure during the COVID pandemic, because people were at home, instead of using the toilets at the mall or at their place of work, it had a significant impact on this community. It definitely sped up our timelines. And I don't want to take away an opportunity for us to try and resolve this without having to keep addressing our general fund or raising water rates. It's not hurting anything having it be in place. I understand the point that you're trying to make, but it's not hurting anything being in place. It's not hurting anything not being in place. I mean, we just don't know. I do know that if it's not there in the federal guidelines, say from the Treasury Office, that if you weren't under a state of emergency when you applied for this grant, then you're not applicable. I'm going to be pretty upset. Is that a risk that you're willing to take?
I am, because no one has ever told us that that's something they've even been considering.
They have said that in the webinars where they talk about the criteria for the funding coming down the line, John.
So they have said that it is a requirement.
They have not said that it is a requirement. They are still considering what the final guidelines are, but that is one of the items that they talk about. It's like mask mandates. Should we have to wear masks?
Okay.
Should that be a personal choice?
Thank you.
Should that be a personal freedom? I mean, I'm going to get off on a tangent here that is not relevant to what we're talking about.
So my ask to you,
but at the end of the day, I am not supportive of lifting the emergency declaration at this time.
This is the first time anyone has ever told me they've actually been told this is a potential requirement. So my ask to you, since you've been on these webinars, is maybe could you get some documentation showing that this is something they are considering? Since this was in your class, I'm sure they could give you that so that the rest of us could actually see that. Because up till now, this is the first time I've actually been told they are actually considering making this a requirement, which is why I've been pushing this. So you're finally giving me information saying they actually are talking about making this a requirement. So if possible, could you provide that information so that the rest of us could see that as well? It's great that you're on the webinar and know this. Could you get that information?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
So, I mean, I don't mind leaving it in place. It's not hurting anything. Oh, I don't know.
Anybody interested in rescinding it?
I would like to rescind it because what we're currently under is not applicable to where we're at now.
Okay, anybody else?
Sounds like I'm bringing it back in March.
Yeah, bring it back in March. April will be better.
No, it'll be March.
All right. Anything else? We got another one. Got a grant.
A lot of our public and the board has been asking what grants are we applying for? So our staff put together a comprehensive list. It's broken out in their packet as awarded, submitted, pending, and potential. All that adding up is about $6.2 million. The way we structure applying for grants is we look at what's currently budgeted in our capital improvement plan. So this is not something that's not budgeted. We do have to show that when we apply for grant funding. So some of these things you'll see in there, it's not specifically labeled like this is page 10 of the CIP, but like Parks Master Plan, we had $20,000 in the budget. Well, we would love to get money for that. So we hear that a lot is to cut things. Another opportunity is to apply for grant funding for these opportunities. So we did want to be really transparent with the board and the public is that we're looking for any and all opportunities for things that are currently in our budget to find grant funding for. Is there any questions?
Find as much as you can.
We're gonna try.
Thank
We're
you
shooting
so much.
big, yeah.
This is very exciting, so appreciate it.
Kelly, are you still doing most of the grant management?
I am, and Hallie Sheldon is as well. And we have a really strong team with our engineers. This is all hands on deck. This is a top priority for our community is to find all the dollars. So, yep.
Because I think this was a position that we had talked about before it come and it gone.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that we've still just tabled for the time being?
Yes. Yep, we have it handled internally right now, spreading it about. And like she said, Hallie is learning a lot, and that will be, as we move to the community and business liaison position, that will be taking on some of Hallie's duties. She'll be taking on more of the grant duties and things like
Yep,
that.
Hallie will be taking the lead and I'll train her up on what that looks like. So, yep.
Well, that's a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it. Do we need to consult staff on anything? Probably not.
Well,
Do we?
One thing,
One
I
thing.
was asked to bring back a plan about how we were going to handle the reduction of the overhead rates, how to best utilize the water, the sewer roundtable, how does the finance committee support this effort, and finding efficiencies in the budget. Two answers. One will be the water rate study, and we will be using the sewer roundtable group to be working on that water rate study. So that once we get that water rate study done, then we can, hopefully we're going to be adding in the overhead rates into that study. And as we put together, and then also there's going to be the finance committee. They're the ones that will help us find the efficiencies in the budget.
Oh.
So I have not calendared that finance committee discussion in yet, but we'll do that tomorrow. Needed to get through today.
Just a request, I think it's great to use the sewer. Could we work on filling out the sewer roundtable? Because I know that with the short notice, we weren't able to get all of the trustee appointments on there. And we also didn't get members from all of our town boards. Could we work at maybe seeing if we could fill in some of those other citizen seats?
It depends on, right now, staff, the people that participated in the sewer roundtable are incredibly educated right now. And to have to bring others up to speed to where they're at, I think would really slow the process down. And my goal is to help move this forward. So potentially those people could be part of the finance committee when the time comes or something like that, but we will provide other opportunities.
Yeah, I was going to just ask that question for clarification. Is the wastewater roundtable, is that rolling into the financial review committee?
No, it'll be a separate committee.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you. Just wanted to give you an update.
Good. Well, I think that's good. That's good forward motion on that. That's good. Okay. Do we still have a sheriff here?
Nope. He's out.
That kind of cut out on us.
I ran off.
We'll talk about that too next time. Wyatt, do you have something you want to ask?
No, I was just gonna say, as a member of the roundtable, I'm very excited.
Oh, yeah. No, we're excited. Anita, you still going to be there?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I can't wait. That's really good. So that's great. I wouldn't want anyone else.
And you know, the other thing too is that we all, over that time period, it came to work together really well.
Yeah.
So that was really
I think
great process to see all the way through. And I'm excited that we're gonna be able to continue on this next step of it, because we really did get in a groove to really make decisions cohesively.
I think it's absolutely great. Okay, good. That's good. All right, sheriffs are gone. So any board members care to bring anything up on this side? Okay, going down this way.
Sure.
John?
Only one minor thing. This is always.
Right.
This was a request from a citizen. Is it possible to, I know we have like the link to agendas and stuff on the town homepage for the website. Is it possible to just like have a spot that on that front page that has a link to whatever the current meeting is, so that people don't have to dig into an agenda to get the link to the Zoom, just to make it more easily accessible? And then I don't know if it's currently in them social media posts, but if it's not, just make sure to include the link. I think it might be in, I haven't looked at the recent one. But if we can maybe just have that on the website as well, that would just, if we can do that, that would maybe make things just a little easier. That was it.
Okay, see what we can do.
Dan, I'm going to let you take us in the executive session. That looks pretty convoluted.
Requesting an executive session for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and or instructing negotiators pursuant to section 24.6, 402.4E, Colorado Revised Statutes regarding negotiations with North Poudre Irrigation Company. As required by Colorado Revised Statutes, section 24.6, 402.2, D.5, 2A and 2E, the executive session proceedings will be electronically recorded and the record will be preserved for 90 days through April 25th, 2022. To move into that.
I so move.
Second.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
Trustee Kinney,
Yes.
Trustee McDonald,
Yes.
Trustee Whitehouse,
Yipper.
Mayor Pro Tem Knudsen,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes. All right. You need a break, anybody? 2 minutes, a couple minutes. Okay. Not bad. Not too bad. Reminds me of when we used to start at 7:30. Remember that? 7:30 meetings.